on.
Okay. All right.
Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies.
Hello, and welcome to Midnight Metal. Robert Meyer Burnett and Dave Parker, they're fucking metal. Midnight Metal, Midnight Metal, Midnight Metal.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and whatever the fuck you want to call me. I don't know. Robert Meyer Burnett, and I'm here with Midnight Metal. Episode 83, we have a very special episode for you. We have one of my favorite people in the world, director Michael Davis, who made a movie that every year just grows in stature. You read op-ed pieces about this movie. By the 2030s rolling around, this movie is going to be more than Gone with the Wind, more than Lawrence of Arabia. You know it. You love it. It's shoot 'em up, gunfights in the sky, gunfights on the ground, gunfights with pregnant women. It's going to be amazing. I mean, come on, there's a character called the Milk Maiden in this movie. You're going to hear from the director about his new project. But you know what? You don't really come to see me when you watch Midnight Metal. Everybody's like, Rob, when are you going to do another Midnight Metal so we can see this guy? Which is Mr. Dave Parker. Dave Parker.
Yeah!
Welcome to Midnight Metal. Look,
Thank
we got underneath us. We got Michael Davis waiting in the wings. We got him in the wings.
Right. That's right.
There he is. On Midnight Metal, we do that kind of thing. Dave, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm fucking great. I'm excited. You know, here we are, two middle-aged white guys talking about the importance of Hollywood. You know, joined by another one. It's magical, isn't it? But there's a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. Some posthumous news, and as people are now finding out, Roger Corman, the king of the B movies, you know, sadly passed away Thursday.
Yeah.
We were just getting the news today. I mean, and it works with our topic, which of discussion along with Michael, which is Hollywood dying? And you know, is Roger Corman's passing the final nail in the coffin of Hollywood, or is it, you know, a new beginning? You know, in a way. And I mean, that's the thing. You know, the importance of Roger Corman can almost barely be measured. Without him, you potentially don't have Coppola, Scorsese, Jonathan Demme, Joe Dante, Alan Arkush. Paul Bartel, Jim Wynorski, even, you know, I mean, so many people. You wouldn't have, you know, there'd be movie fans. There'd be no Sharknado. There'd be no Asylum. There'd be no Full Moon.
There'd be no Machine Gun Joe Viterbo.
There'd be no Nicholson.
There would be no. Dude, let's all watch The Trip, man. Come on. Little Shop of Horrors.
You know, Peter Fonda. There'd be, you know, there's so, I mean, that's the thing. His influence, I mean, would we have Gothic horror? Would Vincent Price be, you know, revered as the great horror actor if it wasn't for Roger Corman? You know, the people, Richard Matheson, the writers that he worked with, Charles Beaumont, you know, all these, you know, but the thing I think that's important now is, you know, so many of us, me included, like, oh, well, you know, I don't know, it's so hard, this business is so hard and stuff like that. And Roger never said that. He just said, fuck it, do it. And he did it. And he changed the entire landscape.
Dude, there'd be no James Cameron without Roger Corman.
Or Bill Paxton. Cameron would have never met Bill Paxton if it hadn't been for Roger Corman.
I mean, come on, Escape from New York, Battle Beyond the Stars,
So many things. You wouldn't have your
Galaxy of Terror.
We wouldn't have our knowledge of Bergman films would not be what it is without Roger Corman. You wouldn't have your beloved Star Crash without
Or my beloved
Roger
Fantastic Planet, I don't think.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It's just so much influence. There's not enough words or time for us here. 98 legendary. He and I actually share a birthday. We have the same birthday, which is always like been very cool to me. Yeah. So I just want to bring that up right away.
Well,
Rest in peace, Roger Corman.
Before we go any further, and he's waiting in the wings, I want to bring in not the Cool as Ice German edition, not that, ladies and gentlemen, but because that's like the least metal thing you're ever going to find on this show. What I wanted to bring in to all of you is Mr. Michael Davis. Center gets the square. Michael,
hey,
welcome to Midnight Metal. Don't worry, I'm going to fix this little. How are you, sir?
Very good. I was glad you brought up James Cameron because that's my favorite from the Corman group.
Yeah, someone in the chat.
And he worked also as a production designer first before he became a director there.
Yeah,
And that was great that you could actually go to a place and move up. Hollywood is not a place where you can actually rise in the ranks like most places. You go to work for a company, and then if you work there, they promote you and you promote you. But the being a writer or a director isn't about being promoted from working your way up. You either are in or you're out, except that maybe Full Moon or Roger Corman. And so I like that. It was very democratic and the rare meritocracy, I think, that you can actually be talented and be recognized.
Exactly. Those two places, those two guys, Corman and Charlie, were the two guys where hard work actually could lead to something. And it made so much difference. And in the chat, people were going, James Cameron, ? Yes, James Cameron worked. He started in the art department. He started the art department doing props and models for some of Corman's space stuff. Quickly graduated.
Battle Beyond the Stars. He designed Nell.
Yep.
I mean, he made a spaceship that looked like a woman's reproductive organs that had boobs on it.
Yes, the famous boob ship, Battle Beyond the Stars. And then he graduated to production designer on Galaxy of Terror.
And then he moved on to Escape from New York.
And did effects work on Escape from New York when they hired Roger's team and stuff like that at the Hammond Lumber Yard in Venice, California, which was it was like hallowed ground. I don't know if you guys ever got to go down there. I did. And it was just a junky little former lumber yard that he made into soundstage, but it was hallowed ground. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, so the three of us, first of all, I really, Michael, you've now, I mean, it's been so long. The three of us really met at Full Moon literally 30 years ago. We were working for Charlie Band's Full Moon, and Charlie Band, everyone knows him as making Reanimator, and he goes back to movies like Tourist Trap and Laser Blast. And you were making
shot in Burbank.
Yep, and you were making a movie for their children's division, Beanstalk, a riff on Beanstalk, and that's when we were all there. I was actually working for Dave and Dan Schweiger in the promotions department, and you were making Beanstalk. I mean, before we get into your career, what is your background? How did you become a filmmaker?
I went to art school. I was a illustration major, and I was discovered like 2 years into it that I was more interested in the storytelling aspects of illustration. I loved the old N.C. Wyeth. I liked the Norman Rockwells. I loved paperback book covers, where they looked like movie posters and they were painted, right? And I loved the old illustrator, this guy Bob Peake who did all these.
Oh, yeah. Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Yep.
And one of my instructors was this guy, Dave Pasalacqua, who also did movie posters. But I realized I was more interested in storytelling. And I had wanted to be an animator. I wanted to go to Cal Arts. And my dad didn't think I wanted to be stuck behind a desk drawing all day. He said, you can go to grad school for animation. Just be an illustrator first. So I applied to USC Cinema. And I went there and I had all these great classmates. One of my good friends is Peter Gould, who did Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Steve Summers was there, Jay Roach of Austin Powers, Michael Lehman of Heathers. I mean,
I haven't heard of any of these people.
What's that?
I haven't heard of any of these people before.
Oh, come on. And then Matt Weiner.
No, he's kidding. He's kidding.
I know. Matt Weiner lived a couple apartments down from me. I mean, it was just a great place. All these friends of mine ended up going and succeeding. Anyway, I went to film school, and then I stupidly, when I got out of school, decided to become a storyboard artist to combine my filmmaking with my drawing, thinking that if I could show people how I could direct on paper, it would lead to directing. But what I discovered is if you're good at something, people want you to stay in that role. They want you to be a tool in their toolbox. But ultimately, I ended up getting to direct. I directed this Saturday morning show called The Amazing Live Sea Monkeys. I directed the Cheers special, the last episode of Cheers. We had basically a pregame show with Bob Costas. And at the time, it was the 99th most watched television show in history. Of course, because it was the prelude to the last episode of Cheers. Which then I ended up writing all these screenplays. And I was writing for Charlie, right? But I wanted to direct Beanstalk, but I hadn't gotten the job. And then they were doing this Prehysteria 2.
Right.
Remember this?
Oh, yeah.
And it was basically this movie, stupid, about miniature dinosaurs. But the first one had done boffo at home video.
Huge.
All the parents that couldn't take their kids, I want to go see Jurassic Park, right? They said, no, but here you can watch this because Jurassic Park's too scary. And the director was starting on Monday, and Charlie called me on a Thursday and said, the director hates the script. If you can will you rewrite the script? And I rewrote the whole script in 3 days, and the director loved it. And then about a month later, they were going to keep the Prehysteria set standing, and they were going to do Prehysteria 3. Same thing. The director hated the script. And Charlie said, if you do the same thing, because I know you killed yourself, if you rewrite the script in 3 days, as a favor to me, I'll let you direct Beanstalk. And so that's how I got to direct.
But you also had a huge cheerleader in Charlie's wife at the time, Deborah Dion.
Yeah, Debbie was amazing. I have to tell you, when I turned in the script to Beanstalk, this has never happened to a writer. She and the other guy there, Scott Fay, they go, we have no notes. Can you believe that? Turn in the script, you have no notes, right? But the thing that was really neat about Charlie, you remember, he had this board, and he had like 100 films by the year 2000. 200. Right? 200 films, you're right. And he would get the one sheets when he knew what he wanted to do, and all you had to do is write a script that matched the one sheet, which Beanstalk was.
Yep.
He did that all the way back into the. He'd go to the Cannes Film Festival with. I remember one of my favorites was Decapitron in the 80s that he later made as a puppet, as one of the puppet masters.
And the funny thing, I still have the Empire sales flyer that they did for Cannes of Decapitron.
It was great.
Bilson and DeMaio, who created the first Flash series, wrote the script.
And they did the Rocketeer, didn't they?
They did the Rocketeer as well, but they wrote a Decapitron script.
I mean, so many people came there. Helen Hunt was in a bunch of the movies. Yep. I mean, it's just huge.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, we have a tip. A $10 tip has come in from Miss 50 in Still Metal. She says, hello, Rob, Dave, and Michael. I feel like movie poster designs continue to go down the toilet. Glad to see Suitable Flesh and Late Night with the Devil get some classy poster love. Michael, Monster Man had an awesome marketing poster. Stay metal. You stay metal, Miss 50, and Still Metal.
Oh yeah,
Monster Man. Wait.
I have to confess, I never listened to rock and roll when I was growing up. I was such a nerd. I recorded all the James Bond movies. I would sneak into the movie theaters or off the TV set. And instead of listening to the latest rock and roll, all I did was listen to James Bond movies over and over again. So I'm the least cool rock and roller midnight metal guest you'll ever have.
Michael, there's still time. There's still
Come on,
time.
dude. Yeah, don't give up.
Right. It's never too late to rock.
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, I just want to point out, if I can, my ex-wife, Yelena, she worked for Lionsgate, and she did a poster for Monster Man. Do you remember that?
She did the poster?
Yeah, which I was like, could be better, couldn't it?
Yeah. Well, the media book, the new media book from Germany's got a great painted
awesome.
cover.
The new media book from Germany is awesome. I'll find it so I can put it on the show.
Where do you see all these things? I know it's out there, but I don't have it. I'm not really game. I don't even have posters of my movies up, you know?
We go to a site called diabolicdvd.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that has a lot of imports and stuff like that that you normally wouldn't hear about.
Well, I have my favorite story about Monster Man is from my star, Eric Youngman. And Eric was at a Starbucks and was going to put the sugar and cream in his coffee. And this homeless guy comes in, right? And goes really close to Eric and goes, "Where's Fuckface?" And Eric goes, "Oh," because the monster in Monster Man is named Fuckface because his face is all fucked up, right? And Eric's like, "Huh, where's Fuckface?" And Eric goes, you saw the movie? Yeah, I loved it. Where's Fuckface, right? And Eric is like, where did this homeless guy see Monster Man? And he guessed that these guys sometimes save enough money. Once a month, they get a hotel room, they shower, they clean up, they watch cable TV. And his one night he watched Monster Man and loved it. But I'm like, where's Fuckface?
Okay, Michael, not only is there a German media book for Monster Man, but there's 3 separate covers.
Really?
3 separate covers.
goodness.
That's how revered. You know, John Carpenter talks about how in Europe he's revered.
He's an artist.
He's an artist. But in America, he's a bum.
Yeah.
So just so you can see this, look at this. There are
my
the 3.
gosh.
There are the 3
wow.
Monster Man German media book covers
My
for
favorite
your
one is cover
and the-
C. Rob, if you get it, get me cover C.
cover. See, but look in the middle. Look at the middle one. It says a film by Michael Davis right there on the cover.
I know.
That is wild. Wow. I kind of like the one on the left because it's so different than all the other posters, although it doesn't do the concept of a monster driving a monster truck.
No,
And for people in the audience who don't
this
know
is
what
fucking
movie
metal,
is,
though. This is fucking
movie is
metal.
a really, I mean, Michael, you can describe what the movie is, and for those who don't have import DVD, Blu-ray players and stuff like that, I just want to let them know right now on Amazon Prime for free, if you're a Prime member, there is a beautiful, I was watching it today, beautiful HD transfer of Monster Man that is on Amazon Prime right now.
And they didn't edit out any of it, did they? Because
No.
they've edited out some of the stuff on Shoot 'Em Up, which is a real bummer sometimes.
Yeah,
like
no.
TNT and all that.
No, this is the original version of it.
Wow.
Just
How cool
done.
is that, dude?
Well,
How metal?
I
How
have
metal
to
are you?
It's really nice. The other night I was talking to this kid in the Philippines. He was helping me set up something on my computer, and he said he had watched Shoot 'Em Up with his dad. And it's really great when you go in. And I went to Japan one time, and these guys at the video store, they knew they'd seen Shoot 'Em Up, and it's really great when people see your work all over the world, because that's what it's really about, is that the film has a life. And this you made my night by showing me those covers.
And I got to thank you, because I'm proud Dave and I worked for you, and we did the special features for the Shoot 'Em Up Blu-ray.
Yeah, and I ended up recently downloading that and watching it. And you guys did a masterful job. Did you guys also cut the bloopers? Because that's also on YouTube.
I'm not sure. I mean, Rob, that was a disc that you mainly handled. I worked on part 1.
Yeah, you worked on part 1, and it was, it's funny because we might have, because they gave me, this is my favorite, this is one of my favorite stories producing DVD special features. So we deliver, and it was going to be the DVD and the Blu-ray, and it was one of the first Blu-rays that New Line was putting out. And they wanted to do something that was Blu-ray exclusive. So Mike Mulvihill calls me and goes, "Hey, do you think you can do like some new exclusive feature for the Blu-ray, and I'm like, we kind of used all this, like we literally used every scrap of behind the scenes footage that existed, except interview footage. And he goes, well, I because he was going to give me like 25 grand or something, and I'm like, you know, you always say, sure, yes, absolutely. And I said, well, what if we did a video commentary? You know, like you did your audio commentary, but we would do a video commentary, and I'd take all the interview snippets, whatever was left, and just cut this picture-in-picture audio commentary or video. It was a video audio commentary that would be in a little box in the corner, however they did it. And he goes, "Oh, it sounds great. You know, do that." But I need it in like 2 days.
Oh my God!
I'm just like, okay. So, you know, you don't say
but
no.
Then he would have said if you did it in 2 days, he'd let you direct your movie.
Yeah,
like
I know.
Charlie did.
No, but it was one of those things where I'm like, okay. So it's just like, I'll take cat naps like every 8 hours and just stay up for 2 days and do it. And what was really funny, when I turned it in, they didn't know how to put it on the disc. Like, how would they? So they actually put the movie on the disc again with that video commentary on top of it as a second stream, which cut down on the space of the disc. But I guess they had to use a BD50 or whatever it was at the time. But that disc is pretty chock-a-block full of stuff.
Wow. Well, you know, the one that you did on Shoot 'em Up is amazing because you went to every single department, from the actors to the gunsmith to the director to the producers. I mean, there are like 8 different sections on that DVD,
including your original animatics and stuff, because you drew the animatics to sell the film. That's actually, I'm really proud of that disc. You know, it's kind of. It's a really good disc. So thank you for that. You and Don Murphy.
Those jerks wouldn't fly you up to Toronto, which is like, and you had to get some crew up there. They did fine, but if you were there, you know.
Oh man, we would have gotten so much Monica Bellucci.
Yep.
I would have got more Monica Bellucci than you could possibly imagine.
She's a whole special feature to herself.
Yeah.
Yes,
she's a walking special feature. But, you know, I think, guys, we did have a topic. And, you know, we, the three of us, have been eking out a meager living, such as it is, in Hollywood for, you know, banging around for over 30 years. My first professional job was in '89 as the art department assistant on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Dave, what was your first professional gig in the film business?
It was Jeff Burr's Eddie Presley. First film I ever worked on was Jeff Burr's Eddie Presley, about a homeless Elvis impersonator living out of his van.
And, of course, Jeff Burr also directed Texas Chainsaw, so you and I have that in common. We each worked on Jeff Burr movies as our first job. Who recently passed away, but he was just an incredible guy. And, you know, you moved from somewhere else. Michael, you moved here too, didn't you? Didn't you move to LA?
I grew up in Maryland, went to art school in Manhattan, and then I came out here to go to film school.
So there was, I mean, this is something I think younger people that are looking to get into the industry, such as it is now, we all kind of heard, and everybody I knew, we all heard this clarion call to come, kind of like going to Devil's Tower and Close Encounters. We all were compelled to make the journey across country. And what I thought was interesting is we all, call us professional nerds, whatever, we all kind of were in the same circles. I mean, some circles were bigger than others, but we all kind of met, whether it was at screenings or whether it was working together, which for the first, from like the late 80s through even the 2000s, was a really fun place to be. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is that I recently did a animated project, a 2D animated project that was a spec, a proof of concept. And I asked my good friend Yuri Lowenthal, who does all these great animes and all that, can you help me get a cast? And I said, do you know this guy, Steve Bloom, who did Spike Spiegel, right?
Oh, my God, Steve.
Right. And so, you know, he did Cowboy Bebop.
He was the voice of Wolverine at times.
Yeah. And so we come into the recording session, and Steve says to me, Michael, you don't remember me, do you? And I go, how do I know you? Right. And he goes, you gave me my first on-screen speaking part in Beanstalk. because he was working in publicity down at Full Moon.
Oh,
and I was asking him for a freebie, and I felt like, oh my God, Steve Bloom, but he felt like it was a way to pay me back, and it was just like the greatest that I got the greatest, action hero voice artist to voice, my piece. And so it's just the connectivity, the intersection of everybody.
Well,
it's so funny. It's so funny. Just sorry, Rob, didn't mean to interrupt, but every year I do this charity marathon online called Yorkie-thon, which is to save Yorkies. And they have me do a script reading every year, a live script reading with actors and everything else. And I direct those. And in past years, we've had Yuri and Steve Bloom as participants in it. So it's been very cool.
And the Yorkie was on Cowboy Bebop.
There you go.
That connected.
Yeah.
Well, gents, if I also can throw in terms of the Yuri Lowenthal Love Fest, guess who is playing Elliot Ness in my upcoming 8-hour fully immersive audio drama? Mr. Yuri Lowenthal.
Oh, wow!
Is playing the leader of the Untouchables. I guess for those of you who don't know it, Yuri Lowenthal is also the voice of Peter Parker in the PlayStation Spider-Man games. The PlayStation 5 Spider-Man.
That is perfect. Because there's a Boy Scout quality, or people think of Elliot Ness as this kind of Boy Scout, straight arrow. And Yuri can do anything, but he's kind of got this great earnestness that is just part of his energy. And so I think that is perfect casting.
Yeah, and he's in multiple episodes, and I can't wait to see him go mano-a-mano, because he's kind of like Todd Stashwick, who plays Nathan Heller. They're like simpatico, and they're both going after Al Capone, and although at the time of True Noir, Capone's in jail already in Atlanta. So, but Al Capone.
I've listened to all the Nate Heller books, right? I when I work, I listen to books on tape. And I just love the fact that he has an episode or a book where he tries to solve the Marilyn Monroe, and he deals with Bobby Kennedy and JFK, Al Capone. I mean, all these great historical stories intersect, and they're so well researched, and they're just great. I mean, every one of the book is a high concept, like, detective meets this person.
It's funny that you say that, because the premise for our audio drama is we're going to do 4 10-episode audio dramas, and then the idea is to take the 3 books in the 60s, beginning with the Marilyn Monroe book, and turn that into a streaming series. So we would do a Mad Men, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel-esque with that kind of look to it. But Nathan Heller's set in the 60s. He's in his 50s now, and Todd Stashwick would play him on screen. So the whole audio drama is a proof of concept to show what would a series be like. And you'll have, 8 hours. Here's the episodes right now. And that's why when we start announcing who's in it, people are going to be very impressed with the cast that we put together. I can just say that. I can only announce Todd Stashwick. Actually, I'm going to save announcements, but Todd Stashwick and Yuri Lowenthal are the people we've announced, but there's like 6 other people that we've already cast that people are going to be like, really? You got them?
They're gigantic. Rob told me I'm not going to give it away, but they are huge.
Yes. There's many nuggets to drop at times.
Yes. I mean, there's Charlie Band connections. There's all kinds of things. But so what I wanted to ask you guys, so we've been around for a long time. We have seen the business. We saw the indie film explosion of the late 80s, early 90s, and the rise of people like Kevin Smith and Tarantino and Steven Soderbergh and Spike Lee, and saw that. And then we saw, movies were making huge money on DVD. The 90s were like, even I worked on the Full Moon Movie Arcade. That was the first movie I ever edited. We recut the whole thing because I forced Peter Billingsley to do it and Dan Schweiger. But it was a really heady time. And Dave directed your first movie, The Dead Hate the Living, at Full Moon.
Yep.
But now we see a Hollywood transformed, and it's kind of a mess. Everyone's like, it's like people forgot the core business was to make movies. Hollywood was about making good entertainment. And if you made good entertainment, not following trends, but setting trends, You know, IPs weren't IPs. They had to be made first. They had to be original films. And that's what Hollywood specialized in. And in the 90s, studios were making all kinds of diverse. They were making comedies and erotic thrillers and biopics and Oscar bait and all kinds of adult dramas. Now, with a global marketplace, studios leaned into the event film, the IP film, no comedies. You know, they used to make Hunt for Red October for $30 million, and it would make $330 million, making a huge profit. But it wasn't spending $150 million to make $1 billion. So Hollywood is a mess. I would ask you, Michael, how do you feel about the state of Hollywood now? And with young people not paying much attention to movies the way we did, does Hollywood have a future?
Well, I think that it's the definition of what we say classic Hollywood is, and which is the movie-going experience, going to the theater. It's Friday night, and I mean, when I was, a young guy, that's what I did. Friday night, Saturday night, probably Sunday night, I just wanted to go to the movies. And that was the event. And then you'd go to dinner and you would talk about it and you watched it on the big screen and you went to see everything. And you I even dressed up as Indiana Jones when the first Raiders of the Lost Ark came out. And I got on local TV because everybody was stoked about the movies. And now that I'm a father and I watch my kids, they've never had this culture of the Friday night, Saturday night, the event is going to the movies. They sometimes go to the movies. I used to, when they were in their teens, had to beg them, you want to go to the movies? And I think part of it is the change of habits that, YouTube and, social media, there are other things that grab our eyeballs. And you're not going to stop technology. So part of it is Hollywood making bad choices and no longer making the IPs and setting the trends, but it's also technology that is changing viewing habits.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, people have a lot more choices. Video games have become incredibly more sophisticated, and the storytelling in video games has become just as gratifying as a good movie and the best of the video games. What about you, Dave? I mean, you did a movie that you just finished. You got to go to a foreign country and make a film that's currently airing on Tubi.
Tubi, yep.
Which, by the way, I have to say that they just yesterday, Tubi put up my own film, Forbidden Tango. We had to change the name from Tango Shalom because everyone hates Jews to Forbidden Tango. But it's a true story. Our distributor said no one's going to watch our movie, change the title. But it is also up on Tubi. And the thing about Tubi is they're making original movies, and for movies like my own film, Tango Shalom, Tubi's giving it a place to be seen now, and Tubi's kind of a hip platform.
In a way, it is. I mean, the problem with Tubi is that they really don't advertise much anywhere. I mean, that's the issue that I've been told that my movie has been facing is just that they don't advertise. So it's really, again, kind of what we've always been doing, being our own PR people to get the word out there. And Tubi is great. It is what
Speaking of that, Dave, what is the name of your movie?
Oh, sorry. I'm not as polished as you. Mine is called You Shouldn't Have Let Me In, and it's a
That's
light.
What she said.
It's a light, fluffy vampire movie with it's like it's a starter film maybe for young girls who want to get into vampires and shit like that. It's very unlike my sort of sensibilities, but I infuse some of my sensibilities in there. There's a lot of.
Why don't you step back, because you say that this isn't your sensibility, but why don't you talk about the auteur where you get to direct your own script, but then the directing assignment, because there is, I think, a nobility that to stay in the game, you have to work, and work begets work. And so you people knew your work. They knew you had a great sensibility. It might not be your sensibility, but you got the job. Why don't you talk about that?
Because we did a whole episode on that about paying your dues and being a working director before. So we have covered that. And
Michael, can you turn your volume up just a little bit? I don't know.
Can I go just better?
Oh yeah.
I'm usually so loud.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good right there.
Better?
Yeah.
But the thing is, what was great about it is look, how many, this is almost like, going back to the Canon days or anything like that, because it's like, how many, low budget filmmakers get like flown off to another country nowadays to go make a movie. It was amazing. And I got to say, speaking of Canon, Forbidden Tango is a very Canon title, Rob.
It is a very look. I swear to God, when they look, don't get me wrong. Forbidden Tango is a great title for our little, fakakta little movie, and maybe more people will watch it. I thought it was funny that, I made frame grabs from the film because I edited the film as well, and I made frame grabs from the movie, and they took one of my frame grabs for the new poster, and the new poster's great.
Yeah,
I was like, this is great. The thumbnail's really, really good, and. When you make a low-budget movie, I mean, here's the funny thing, too. We grew up in a world where we watched low-budget movies the same as any other budget film. Like, we were watching the Corman in the wake of Star Wars with Battle Beyond the Stars and Alien, with Galaxy of Terror or Forbidden World or, any of that stuff. We would watch those movies, Avco Embassy, Phantasm, The Fog, Escape from New York. I mean, we didn't delineate whether we were going to see a movie based on the budget or not. And there was a wit and a verve to those filmmakers, whether it's Joe Dante doing The Howling, whether it was John Landis doing American Werewolf, or even earlier, like Kentucky Fried Movie and all that crap.
Joe Zito doing Missing in Action 3 that I storyboarded.
Which was canon.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. But that's the thing. My stance, which I shared with you guys before we went on, and I got this from watching The Offer again,
right?
The TV show The Offer, which I think is absolutely great.
It's so great.
Doesn't get enough appreciation or love or attention, and it should.
Matthew Good as Bob Evans was one of the great. I can't believe he didn't get an Emmy nomination, much less win. That show is like entirely. They should make a Bob Evans multi-season show. With Matthew Good as Bob Evans. I could watch that guy as Bob Evans forever.
Just do the kid stays in the picture as a series.
Yes.
They did the animated show.
Age up until he passes away.
Charlie Evans, his nephew, was one of my students when I was a TA down at USC. So if you want the 1 degree of separation
there you go.
For a family, you could do it.
The thing is, but what I gleaned partially from that, there was a moment in it where he was talking to Bob Evans, gets a call from Jack Warner, and he goes, "Well, I'm retiring. I'm selling it off." And it's like, I think in a way, when the 70s happened, after with the rise of the blockbuster. And the fact that the studios were being sold to corporations, that's the ripple effect is still happening from that. And I think that's what's changed movies, because once corporations started to own the film studios, it took a while, but you have people who are just looking at the numbers. It's just the bottom line now. And you don't have people, maybe you do, but they seem to be mostly ineffectual, like Bob Evans, who were fighting for the quality of the films and stuff. And like you said, Rob, we watched stuff back in the day. We didn't care what the budget was. A Galaxy of Terror could stand right next to Alien. Now, we knew it wasn't as good as Alien, but it didn't diminish our enjoyment of seeing a woman abused by a giant maggot.
Joni from Happy Days.
No, it wasn't her. She wasn't the one. It was an actress named Taffy.
I thought it was
something.
Oh, I thought it was Joni.
No, Aaron Moran was not abused by a giant maggot.
Well, she was in the movie though.
But right? She is
not on the screen.
Right, you're right, not on the screen.
That's what she said.
But I mean, that's the thing. The other thing is too. It was like, now we have, even on my movie, which was a little bit, it's like, well, you don't have a creative producer like Peter Bart was in The Offer. You have a committee.
Yeah.
For these low budget films that tell you what you can and can't do, or what's not,
And they've also, that committee's never made a movie themselves.
No, they've never made a movie. Some of them watch movies.
Most don't even do that.
Corman was just like, hey, look, here's your budget, here's your schedule, you make it. I don't give just make it good. We'll find a way to exploit it and sell it. Just do it. And the thing is, there's so much, because the numbers are so valuable now. It's like you're not a successful movie unless you make $1 billion, which is just kind of insane.
Well, I'll give you a story that supports that. So Shoot 'em Up came out, and it did not do well at the box office, but it had a lot of cool action stuff. And I went to go and pitch on the sequel to the movie Red, that movie with Bruce Willis and Helen Mirren, and it was a bunch of old assassins, right? And it really could use some, cool action. And I went in and pitched to a mid-level executive who, after I pitched, he called up my agent and says, well, that's about the best director's pitch I've ever seen. And then he goes on, but you know what? We're not going to hire Michael because my boss is going to say, well, what were the numbers on Shoot 'em Up? And then the executive says, I can't go to my boss and ask him to spend 90 minutes of his time to see Michael's film to see his talent. So even the people trying at the top making decisions are not willing to spend 90 minutes watching a good movie to decide whether or not they should let the guy direct or not. So it's not even, it's about this philosophy and this laziness. It's like, let's say you had a stack of 10 movies that you had to watch, and you're the head of the decision maker. How hard is it to watch 10 fun movies and say, I want that guy? They don't even do that. All they want to do is, oh, he did this. Oh, what were his numbers? Okay, I want him. And it's like they don't even want to do work. So I think it's also an element of laziness that happens. And, I had a friend who was at Universal. He was a studio exec, and then he left, and he would tell the story. And this was literally the philosophy. He said, we want to make movies like Ford Motors, that we can plug in anybody down the production line, and the director is just a cog in the machine. But we, the studio and the producers and the executives, want to control everything. And we want to get a director that we control. So the vision and the movie is ours. And that person is just executing it. He's like a foreman on a construction site. It's not that culture just is subconsciously there. It was verbalized that they wanted it to be like Ford Motors. I think that is terrible.
Well, the funny thing is that's not how movies get made. That shows, that betrays a complete misunderstanding of how films. It's really bizarre to me that, and by the way, that attitude is everywhere. And it's funny because you always hear how somebody says, oh, the studios want a director they can control. Well, who at the studio knows anything about movie making? Control what? And it's such a weird disconnect. I think that at the studio level, people know less about the making of movies now than they've ever known.
And they also don't love movies.
No,
they don't. They don't love movies. They go, oh yeah, it's cool. I got some posters up in my office and stuff like that. But it goes even deeper. Forget watching a reel that could be, people go, oh, well, do you have a director's reel or do you have an editor's reel? It's like, what the fuck for? They won't even, if it was 3 minutes, it's too long. And script readers, they read a script and it's like, well, you get 5 pages. It used to be 10. You get 5 pages to rope me in. I mean, how can you tell? Can you imagine if they were reading The Godfather now? It's like, I believe in America. Fuck.
Well, that's what I have to tell you. So this is one of my secrets. And I decided I was going to rope them in the first sentence, right? And so the first sentence of Shoot 'em Up was, everything was going fine. Mr. Smith could see the baby's head emerging. Everything would be great, except for the gunman shooting at them. So he's delivering a baby, and it's a gunfight, and that's what the movie is this absurd thing, and you're either going to like it after the first sentence or not. But also that thing I did is because the readers don't like to read, so I ended up making the entire script a line, double space, a line, double space. There was no paragraphs. There was no description that was like even two lines long. And I was inspired, although they only did it on the first page, the script of Arachnophobia, was like a haiku. It was like one word, 3 words, and it was like double spaced for the whole first page. And then everything was blocky paragraphs. I'm like, no, do it for the whole script, because then it'll be readers will love it because they'll fly through it. And somehow actually, and that's the thing, is that I ended up taking the reader at New Line out to lunch, because that's the first gatekeeper. If you don't get amazing coverage from the reader, nothing happens. And this guy is really the guy that made the movie happen, because he said this thing's great.
That's amazing. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, but now, and again, that's why, at least personally, I think, and I don't think Hollywood dead. Is it dying? I don't know. Maybe it is, which is a sad state of affairs, because we all have a few more years left in us. And I don't want to like face even 60 and go, well, cool. Now I guess I'm going to be a park ranger or something like that, you know, where it's just like, but I think the
well, I guess
I think corporations buying studios and stuff like that, and they're more interested in the amusement parks and all the ancillary, you know, aspects of what a studio has, and it's taken a few decades, but it has definitely damaged Hollywood in a huge way. And you can't say, oh, well, Marvel and, you know, all those things, that's what's killed Hollywood, because anyone wants a superhero movie. It's like, yeah, well, you know, you could have gone back in the day and go, oh, well, you know, they only want Westerns. It's killing Hollywood. You know, there's nothing else.
I have to say the flip side of that, though, interestingly enough, is horror. You know, horror is still vibrant as a theatrical experience. I mean, Paramount made Smile for less than 20 million. It made over 200 million worldwide. That's Barbarian was a $4.5 million movie that made 40 million. Now, Josh Krieger, who made Barbarian, he has a new movie with an incredible cast at Warner Brothers called Weapon. I don't know if I can say this. Well, let's just say he's making an incredible movie at Warner Brothers called Weapon, and let's just say I'm very interested in it for various reasons.
But again, I bet it's a much bigger film, and the thing is, back in the day, it was.
You know what it is? It is a bigger film, but if Barbarian was Reservoir Dogs, Weapon is Pulp Fiction.
Okay,
that's all I can. That's how I would describe it.
Even back in the day, even just go back to Reservoir Dogs. That was what, a $2 million movie, and then Pulp Fiction was 20.
Yeah, but it was much more sprawling and more actors.
But again, it was still sort of a natural sort of leap. I mean, remember Carpenter, Halloween, and then he got his 3-picture deal with Avco. You know, The Fog was 1.8, 2 million.
Yep.
Escape from New York was 4 million.
Yeah.
You know, these were, you know, and the thing is, what people forget is, well, Halloween was Carpenter's 4th or 5th movie.
Well, he Dark Star, Assault on Precinct 13, Elvis, Halloween.
So it was his 4th film. Well, he was doing Elvis after Halloween.
Oh, okay.
When Halloween originally came out. So he was doing that. So
3rd film.
Yeah. So, you know, David Cronenberg, before he really came on the scene, was Scanners. That was his 4th film.
Yeah, he made They Came Shivers, aka They Came From Within, Rabid, The Brood, Fast Company, and then Scanners.
And that's where he started to get known,
right,
on a bigger level to Joe moviegoer.
Well, in Michael's case, I mean, Michael made a wonderful movie called 8 Days a Week, where he discovered basically Kerry Russell. And you know what? If 8 Days a Week came out now, and you had exciting young people in the studio put it out, it'd probably do huge numbers.
Well, you know, what's really interesting is that we were done about 2 years before American Pie came out. And we went to the studio saying, do you remember this movie, Porky's? It was made independently. It was picked up. And it made $100 million, right? And I said, the story is just okay. Now you have a great story. And also girls love this movie, even though it's sort of a raunchy R-rated male fantasy teen movie. I said, you guys could make $100 million if you put this out like Porky's. And they go, well, I don't know, right? And then
And it was a festival darling, though, too.
Yeah, and it won the audience award at Slam Dance. So in the movie, there's a character, and you were talking about intersecting, Peter Billingsley. Well, also R.D. Robb is the second lead, who was in A Christmas Story with Peter Billingsley. Anyway, but in this, the character tries having sex with a watermelon, right? Because he heard that if he let it outside and heat it up, it kind of would So he fucks a watermelon, right? And then American Pie comes out, and the guy fucks apple pie. And they had seen my script, right? And then also I have to tell you this crazy story, how crazy upsetting it is that so I got a call from the producers of American Pie, and they said, hey, we heard you made this great teen movie. We're making this movie, American Pie. Can you send me a copy of the movie, and we're going to put you on the list? And so I sent it to him, and he calls me back 3 weeks later, and he says, well, I got something to tell you, right? So I loved your movie. I passed it over to the exec at Universal, and the guy calls me 15 minutes into the movie and go, this is it. Michael Davis is the guy. He's like, the movie's just like the American Pie, and he has watermelon fucking, and we got apple pie fucking, right? This guy's the guy. And then he goes, so, tell me about Michael. How old is he? Oh, he must be in his 30s. And then the guy goes, oh, my boss wants somebody in his 20s. He's way too old to direct American Pie. Now, he just said I was perfect for it. Who has the better set piece, watermelons and apple pie? And actually, watermelons have more resistance. I don't even know. Did you do research? Right? Did you do research? He did not pick me because I was in my 30s, even though my movie was perfect. A perfect showpiece. That's how, ageism, you're in your 30s, and ageism nails you. And that's what's so absurd about the business. I have 100 stories about that. Whether it's Red 2 or American Pie, you do everything right, but it's serendipity.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I heard an interesting statistic about Silicon Valley. And somebody was talking about how this is the first time that they can remember that there's no great startups that are being launched by anybody under 30. Because It used to be like Zuckerberg 20 years ago or 25 years ago, all these startups, all these people, the big tech guys, whether it was Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or all these dudes that were creating the Sergey Brin, whether it was PayPal, they all were these young guys. Well, now that young people today don't have the kind of entrepreneurial drive anymore. They're afraid of, like, you have to put yourself out there. You have to have
that's so funny because a friend was bringing this up, and they've done these studies about my kids' generation, and they're afraid of failure. Was it you who was telling me that the young scientists don't want to do experiments because they don't want to fail? Well, you're supposed to fail 1,000 times until you get it right, and then you discover a new medicine. You have to fail, but they don't want to do experiments, and they don't want to be scientists because they have to fail so many times.
Well, wait. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Rob, this is important. I got to go back. Speaking of scientific research here and stuff like that, the whole watermelon thing.
Yes.
I mean, the research that you must have done to be able to prove this is
well, I was at a Writers Guild event when I was doing Shoot 'em Up, so this is no news, right? Remember, I'm the guy who never listened to rock and roll, right? So I tried it with a grapefruit. But I just didn't think it was cinematic enough for a movie, right? Because the guy comes out with a watermelon and he's rubbing it. RD is so funny, and they say heat it up, and you leave it out in the sun all day, it'll feel like the real thing, right? So anyway.
Well, the citrus could, sting.
Actually, speaking of research, Michael.
The funny thing is, after I'd done the deed, right, I was so afraid my parents, my brothers, so I would cut it up like I was a serial killer, right, in small pieces, and then put it in a brown paper bag and fold it, and then put it in the outside trash can it was like a dead body, because I didn't want the evidence to be out there that I had done this.
Or did anyone accidentally eat it?
That might be the most metal thing. If someone had eaten it.
Oh yeah.
Of course, I would never leave it out.
But nowadays, people would say, "Just don't kink shame me, man. Come on."
Yeah, I mean.
Well, anyway.
The other thing is, you got to realize now.
I had read in a penthouse forum about some guy with fruit, and I figured, I might as well try this, right? Anyway.
Well,
it's funny.
Speaking of research, you also did research. You were
We
writing.
just jumped up about 40 viewers at that story right now.
I lost them or got them intrigued?
No, got them
No,
intrigued.
we got them up, but we're going up.
There's something that that you told me you were doing a script about people getting stuck in a brewery. Do you remember this?
Was a horror film. And I got fired from it.
Okay, well, what I loved about it was you actually did research, and you told me this, and I've never forgotten it, that you can actually survive on a beer-only diet.
Did I do that? Really?
Yes.
I came up
you did the research because it you think it was going to be like 30 days. This is how I remember it anyway. 30 days in the brewery. They were stuck or trapped in this brewery, and you did the research. There were
like these vampire demons in it. I don't know what it was called.
Yeah, but you told me that. I was struck with me because hops and barley and beer isn't just alcohol, but you can survive. And I thought that was. See, I learned that from you. I didn't fuck a cantaloupe.
40 more people intrigued. My favorite scene was in there is some guy is coming, one of the two buddy characters is coming on to a girl and he goes, you're just so sexy. I could just eat your panties, right? And she's so upset with the guy. She says, "Okay, I'll let you." Right. So then he tries to go into that, and he takes the panties and tries to eat them and swallow them, and he ends up getting stuck. Right. And then it's all kind of comedy horror scene where how they do the tracheotomy where they poke a knife through there and they put the guy to get him out has to cut open the guy's neck and pull the panties out this way. And I just it's just so funny to do these absurd sex and violence, and that's my favorite scene in Monster Man. I don't want to give it away, but with
amazing.
Monster Man's a lot of fun too, by the way.
Yeah, there's a great sort of funny horror sex scene.
But we kind of glossed over this for a minute, guys. I mean, this is we're talking about a seminal film here.
Seminal is right, along with that cantaloupe.
A seminal film.
No, watermelon.
Seminal film.
Well, no, what you were doing.
No, that was a grapefruit. That was
grapefruit. A
grapefruit. Cantaloupe would have made more sense, but we didn't have one in the house.
You couldn't get these things made today, including the one you mentioned, Porky's. Which, to me, the thing is this: I'm an unapologetic fan of Porky's.
Okay,
I think Bob Clark was a genius, and the thing is this. Everyone's like, oh, it's so masochistic, it's so sexist and everything else. It's like, if you actually watch Porky's, I will die on this hill. The women all the women characters are the ones who have the power in that movie.
Yes. Totally agree.
But it still goes into the male gaze and all that kind of stuff.
It does, because the thing is, what I didn't realize, and again, if you watch this great, it's not quite Hollywood. It's the documentary about Canon films. They talk about is it Lemon Popsicle? I think it was one of the directors made this movie with Menahem Golan called Lemon Popsicle, which was the director's experiences with sex early on in his youth and everything. And Bob Clark saw this movie. They're so
Boaz Davidson.
Yes, Boaz.
Made Lemon. Yeah, Boaz made it, and
there's so many.
And Adam Greenberg shot it.
Yeah, there's so many similarities to Porky's. It's pretty crazy.
But as close as watermelon fucking and apple pie fucking. Come on.
Well, Michael, you have to realize that watermelons now are a symbol for anti-Semitism, I guess. They're pro-Palestine, symbols now in a weird way.
What,
don't ask me. Yes, don't ask me why, but people are using watermelon symbols as a pro-Palestine.
All right,
thing.
well, I'm gonna have to research that and be careful.
Yeah. So maybe they were onto something. Well, nothing's more American than apple pie. So I'm sure that's probably what I won't doubt you that the science is probably right.
Well, by the way, guys, the colors of a watermelon match
that
the
did
Palestinian
work in my
flag.
favor. But remember, he did it all off screen, and then he'd come back and recount his adventures. So there was no really, there was no watermelon penetration on screen.
Right.
Well, that's why it didn't fly, man.
Well, there was no apple pie.
But I think there's a
Anyway.
larger what you guys are touching on is like we saw a spate of female centric raunchy comedies. We had Bottoms, we had Joyride, which I thought was fucking hilarious. The Asian Girls.
Yeah, I love that.
That film
Not the
was
Paul Walker movie.
Well, yeah, and again, that was sort of, I mean,
not
and
that movie, not
stemmed
Joyride,
off-
the Paul Walker movie.
And I think that all stemmed off of Bridesmaids, probably.
Right, but they didn't do well. And
No.
I think what's really interesting is like, the teen sex comedy. We now have teens declaring themselves non-binary, and my question is, so to be respectful, but also I'm curious, who are they fucking? Like, if you're non-binary, it's like you're saying, I'm not something. Where we were all like horny kids, and we had a litany, whether it was Last American Virgin, whether it was Hollywood Nights, whether it was all the Crown International pictures, Malibu Beach, Van Nuys Boulevard, the
Centerfold Girls.
Centerfold. I mean, we had late night cable staples. I mean, it
What
was.
about the Roger Corman, the stewardess and naughty nurse pictures?
Oh yeah, or how about they were incredible. That you had all of that stuff has gone away. I mean,
I think it's great that they make movies like Joyride, but remember, there's a whole tradition of the R-rated teen, horny boy movie. But there is no tradition of people going, I love this genre, and now they made a new one, Joyride, I want to go. They're kind of reinventing it. And maybe 20 years from now, there'll be the horny teen girl comedy, and the tradition will have come from movies like Joyride, but they don't have no basis to say this is a genre, a type of movie that I like, and I love the tropes. There's no foundation for it. And so they're kind of reinventing the wheel. And just as, like I wrote that script, The Kinsey Reports, and they thought in the 40s that women couldn't have orgasms, right? And the sex act they only liked it for procreation, which was totally wrong. So if they were stunted, by the whole male whatever thing, right? The female sexy movies for women have been stunted and held back. They're probably 20, 30 years behind the horny boy movie.
Absolutely.
But nowadays, 18-year-old girls open their OnlyFans account and they commodify sex. And there's,
that's a different thing.
But I mean, the world is. I want to say that the world of that, our entire world has shifted.
But I think the thing is too, Rob. And again, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to just say that I think the thing also is.
I lose you sound-wise?
No,
you're good.
Oh.
I think the thing is this. People are fucking, but the thing is, Hollywood, it seems to be a reflection of.
I can't hear anybody.
Two coasts.
you can't hear us?
I hear you. I don't hear Dave.
Really?
Do the fans hear Dave?
I'm here. It's on. Everyone else can hear me. I don't know.
hear you, Rob.
That's
Rob muted me.
I didn't. Hang on. Let me see.
Please stand by for technical difficulties.
Can the fans come in and say, the viewers say when they hear Dave?
I think everyone can hear me.
Yeah, I know. We can hear.
They can hear me.
They can hear you.
It doesn't make our conversation.
It could be on your end, Michael.
I think it is. I'm an idiot, maybe.
It's all that sex talk.
You
hit the wrong.
You
hit the wrong. Like so many teen horny boy movies, you hit the wrong button.
There you go.
But the thing is, the thing is, I think a lot of the movies are reflections of just two coasts, New York and LA and stuff. And the thing is, you forget, middle America is still fucking.
Well, this is something going way back in the broadcast.
And they want to watch fun, trashy shit.
Right. Well, I want to go back and ask you, you're talking about Tubi and they don't advertise the stuff, but I don't know what the profile is of a Tubi viewer. Everybody I know who knows about Tubi is somebody that goes, oh, it's free. And I went there and I looked for 10 minutes and then I went back to Netflix. And I just makes me wonder whether all the Tubi audience of people that are going, oh, I'll give it a try. I already saw all those movies. They bought these libraries of movies we've all seen. Who are the people that are watching Tubi originals and are dedicated? That's their first app that they go to. And I think that would be interesting to understand who is watching. And then how do you get to that audience that they know that you got this awesome new movie out there? Because I don't know anybody who watches Tubi, but everybody has Netflix.
I watch Tubi.
And when did you start? And tell me, is it part of your viewing habits now? And why do you watch Tubi?
Yeah, because like I said to you earlier today, Tubi is the greatest video store that never existed. It has everything. It has giant blockbusters, big movies, and the smallest of the small. And it's curated in a very interesting way of subcategories. You can watch, it's like they have the Italian giallo category, they have the cult classic, they have the urban film, they have the sex comedy, they have LGBTQ plus section, they have the romantic comedy, they have the adult animation section.
I think what they think they can do is like Netflix doesn't advertise anymore because they know that their viewers find it on the platform, so they don't need to see it in.
But they do. Tubi does, but it doesn't get the same. It doesn't get the same breadth of, say, Netflix. When like Netflix premieres a trailer to say Rebel Moon.
Right, but they're premiering it. They don't pay for any advertising because the advertising is on their own platform.
Well, they do because there are billboards and stuff like that. Netflix.
I don't think that's effective.
No, but again, Netflix still kind of, and Rob, you can correct me if I'm wrong because I think you're more knowledgeable about this stuff. Is like Netflix still works like one of the major studios.
Right, but they don't spend money on TV advertising, which is the most expensive form of it.
But who watches regular television now?
His idea is that as long as they stay around long enough and their audience keeps rising, they'll get to the point where they'll have an audience, maybe not Netflix size audience, but they go on and everybody watches and they go, oh, new on Tubi, or here's an old movie, because they don't have an advertising budget, I bet.
Well, but I think you just nailed one of the biggest problems of the modern age is there's so much stuff being made from all over the world. I mean, Netflix, they're dropping shows from 10 different countries over the course of 10 days. And, when stuff was coming out for us, we movie fans would scour the entertainment section of the newspaper. And you'd look at the newspaper.
Are there even movie ads in newspapers anymore? Like
I don't think so. And that was, seeing those full page ads in movies. I mean, the whole thing about, here's the thing. I've often said this, I say this on my own show all the time, is that movies were the great art form of the 20th century. And they were the combination of every art form. They were the best art form. They were the most populist art form. They were art for the masses. That has changed. Movies haven't changed, but the stature and the place that movies hold in our culture today has completely changed. And it used to be that throughout the 20th century, movies were a big part of youth culture. Nowadays, certain movies, it depends what it is. I mean, different events can be like Barbenheimer became a cultural event because on one hand, Christopher Nolan everyone's a Christopher Nolan fan, and then you had Barbie coming out, but the juxtaposition of those two films created an event that wasn't necessarily about the movies, but it was about the dichotomy of these two things coming out at the same time. And the fact that they were so diametrically opposed, and it created an event. But what I find interesting is, yes, Oppenheimer won Best Picture, and I think Barbie was a much more subversive film than I thought it was going to be. I thought that, wow, this is a really
movie to pull off successfully. And they should do it like the Olympics. If you do a dive or you're doing a gymnastic thing, they should also judge on how hard it was to perform that.
Yeah.
And, Oppenheimer is a no-brainer. You do a great research, you're going to get all these great stories, and then you structure it together and blah, blah, blah. but I guarantee you, any other filmmakers making Barbie, it would have been a terrible, terrible movie because it's a hard thing to pull off.
No, and Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach.
Comedy is harder because it's a tonal thing. When you go everything's serious, realistic, serious, right? And you just keep the tone. It's very easy to tell the actors and do everything in the editing. But when you do comedy, it's hard to get the tone right. And that's what bugs me, is that it's easy to do drama, but everybody thinks drama is the great art.
But what I wanted to say, though, about this is it was the first time that the movies themselves really weren't the point. You know, we now live in a world where, because the world has completely changed because of social media. And what people, I mean, it really goes back to, if you read any of Jonathan Haidt's research or Haidt's research, it really goes back to like 2012 when the smartphones came out in 2007, but they were for early adopters. And by 2012, teenagers started to all have smartphones and get on. So we now have 12 years, over a decade of social media that's completely transformed culture. And the difference is that the audience, like, we were questing for things out there. We were out there looking for stuff, whether it was music, movies, novels, comics, pop culture, were things that we had to go get. We had to go find. And now it all comes to you. So you don't have to make any effort, and you don't even have to develop much of an interest in something. Like, we were reading every issue of Fangoria, every issue of Famous Monsters, Starlog, Cinefan, whatever we got. We'd get the novelizations, we'd buy the soundtrack albums, we would go get the
TV guide and scan for other spy movies.
Oh, dude.
Kiss the girls and make them die. And what could I find? And it would take me like an hour to look at the little synopsis, right?
And when you had a VCR every night.
Yeah,
you made a plan, and you every night, 7 days a week, there might have been something airing at 3 a.m. that you'd never seen.
Before VCRs.
What my favorite was Friday night before the new Saturday morning cartoons launched, and all NBC, CBS, ABC would do like their half-hour show of what's going to be on their Saturday morning lineup, and then you would have to coordinate. Oh my God, these two shows, which am I going to watch? I want to watch the new Scooby-Doo, but here comes the Grump, right? That's new, or the Wacky Races. And what am I going to watch? And there was no VCR. You had to decide, and it was like maddening. But you would do the research. I would have a little notebook and do the time slots to figure out what I was going to do Saturday morning.
All of that has gone away.
Yeah. The thing is, I think with the youth with the youth culture, or however you want to call it, I think, they've shifted away from the escaping with pop culture, escaping through comic books and movies and soundtracks or music and everything else. They've escaped into Discord and Twitch, watching other people. It's a weird phenomenon that I'm unfortunately a little too old to understand, of watching other people do things.
Yeah, and talking, but I was going to make the observation.
And yet here we are.
And the rise of porn, everybody's watching other people fuck because it's too intimidating to do it yourself.
We're going to have to start fucking on the show, Rob, just to make it worthwhile for everyone.
But I would
not you and me personally, but
with this generation, it wouldn't matter. We could go that way.
But I wanted to talk about video games, because what's also weird is the video games became like a new art form. And I actually love some of these things. They have the great stories, and I love to go to the new worlds. But now the event of it used to be like you'd get a new game and you get this 30-hour adventure. Now all they're doing is playing Fortnite, and they go to like the 5 same arenas, fighting people around the world, shooting. But it's repetitious, and there's no new stories, no new environment, no kind of thematic, like Solid Snake Solid, or those Konami games, or they used to have they were storytelling, these epic stories, right? And now the kids are playing video games and they don't care about the story at all. They just want to sit there and shoot each other. And so even the art form of the video game has gotten to be. But it's
although I will say Kojima-san is still making stuff, whether we're getting deaths.
It's not a big thing anymore. All the numbers are on these massive online League of Legends and League of Legends competitions, and my kids are not watching or playing the story-based games as much. They want the sitting there and interacting and trashing the other team. And
Right.
I think it's interesting.
Isn't this what Spielberg's Ready Player One told us is coming?
Well, I wouldn't give him credit because it was probably in the book.
The book is incredibly different.
Right,
but the overall tone,
that's still storytelling. But that movie came out, I think, after it became irrelevant because he made the movie too late. You know,
yeah. Well, but I mean, look, I would say that the last Ghost of Tsushima was an incredible, immersive story game. I'm sure I can't fucking wait for Grand Theft Auto 6. I mean, I'm a huge Grand Theft Auto fan. But the problem with us is that, like, when they finally went online, Grand Theft Auto 5 went online, like everything else, some, 11-year-old kid I get into the game's going to just whack my ass out, because they're just better. They have more time I just don't have the time to become as good as somebody who's,
But see, I don't like the open world games, just as when you watch a movie, the hand of the directors, the filmmakers are guiding you through this experience of what you're going to feel, how you're going to react. And I like that pacing in a storytelling where you go from level to level. And I want to play it by myself, experiencing the game maker's art. But
don't you think, though, that was But don't you think that's a function of how we grew up? I mean, we're products of the 20th century, and that was what and I agree with you. I'm with you 100%. But I think that again, I think the real thing that is disconcerting about where we're going entertainment wise, and part of it is what you defined with, like, whether it's Helldivers. I want to say Helldrivers. I keep saying Helldrivers, but Helldivers. Not just because
that's my next movie. Helldriver.
Yeah, Helldriver, yeah. But Helldivers is also kind of that melee team kind of thing it's got story too, but it's again, it's a pickup. You can pick up and start shooting and play, and it's fun. You don't have to master.
But I guess is that, I mean, and I'm not against technology, and you kind of like, we can bemoan it and say everything was better in the good old days.
Well, I don't think it was better. It was different.
But it is better.
It's just that there's so many more choices, right? Now you get video games. Now you get online video games. Now you got social media. Now you got streaming. And now you have going out to the movies in the theater, which goes back to, is Hollywood dying? It's only dying in the traditional Friday and Saturday night thing. Like, I feel really bad. Like, Regal Cinema has, buy your card and you can see as many movies as you want in a month for $20 or whatever. If I had that in the 80s, I'd be using that card all the time. But what it really is a last gasp of trying to get people into the theater by reducing the prices. It's a fire sale. And at some point, the movie theaters are going to be like a big theater, like Broadway. You're going to see special movies at a special movie palace, like you go see, a Broadway show, and everybody else is going to see it streaming. And I feel sad. I would not want to be a theater owner right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, and part of that problem too is look, one of the byproducts of the home video age is people think when they're even now going to a big movie theater, even though they're paying and even though they're sitting around total strangers, they pull out their phones, they talk, they act like they're in their living rooms. And what was something that was different for us when we were growing up, movie palaces, movie theaters were our churches. We went there to shut the fuck up and watch the movie. Like, we would never, I never to this day have no interest at all when I walk into a movie house. I either turn my phone off. Right. I don't pay any attention to my phone because there's nothing important in my life that's more important than the movie that I'm watching. And the problem is now most people do not watch. The very process of watching movies, people are trained to watch movies differently. We were totally immersed. Now people are not. They're multitasking as they do in their real lives. They're driving, they're texting.
I think the thing is too, because in a way, because of the internet, because of online gaming, you immerse yourself but you are the star.
Right. That's right.
It's a different thing. It's a different mindset where we want to escape. And maybe I'm wrong here, but I think people have this sort of like wish fulfillment of being that stronger character, of facing the zombie or this action scene, or living vicariously through their avatar in a way. And I think that's changed definitely the way people view movies. But again, I think it's weird. We would say, but I think their attention span is less and stuff like that. And yet now we have bigger box office than we've ever had before. And again, is that just the amount of theaters that are playing things? I mean, people are still going to the movies. It's just, the thing is, the difference is now we're not getting the variety and selection of mega movies and small movies as much. We still are in a way, because it's like, I'll go see something like this little movie called Stop Motion, which was a really cool little movie in the theater before it went on Shudder, or Late Night with the Devil.
Late Night with the Devil, which, by the way, was a movie we would have loved in 1982.
But I kind of feel like with the blockbuster and the IP, I love the early golden days of the Marvel movies when they weren't such a repetition. They were super fun. They were well written. The original Iron Man was great.
The original Iron Man's a great fantasy film.
Right. But now I kind of feel like Hollywood now needs to find the next thing that really,
but it's now, I mean,
Marvel. But we've been in a real doldrums for like 7 or 8 years, even with the blockbusters.
I maybe, but the thing is, I'll always report, and those first 23 films, ending with Endgame, they were all really, whether some degrees of some were better than others to me. But again, does that come from me being so engaged in comic books as a kid? And these characters and everything, and seeing this come out. I mean, because look, I get to Endgame, and when those portals open and everything, I remember it was still one of the greatest experiences in a theater collectively with a group of people. When that portal, when you hear on your left, and the portals open, I just sat there and my jaw dropped because of what I was seeing. I couldn't believe that this was on the screen.
Dude,
it was so, and the thing, and it wasn't just the spectacle, it was satisfying.
Well, think about that, because if you go back to Captain America the Winter Soldier, which is, if you go back and watch it now, you're like, this fucking movie, it's amazing. What the fuck happened to Marvel? And when you get to the first time you hear On Your Left, it's Steve Rogers lapping, Sam Wilson, the Falcon, lapping him, on your left. And he goes, come on, man. And they sit down and you have these two guys. That Winter Soldier opens with that scene. It opens at the mall. And they're
brilliance of it.
But, and you have these two men. Sam knows who Steve Rogers is, but they're both soldiers. And they meet, they're on equal footing. These are two guys, two warriors. They're meeting. They immediately develop a rapport with one another. And you love those guys. And then years later, when Sam's an Avenger and all that, end game could have been the end of the universe. All the stakes couldn't be higher. And when he says I'm getting chills thinking about it. When he says on your left, you're paying off something that they dropped 10 movies before. You watch all this stuff, and those movies were so carefully considered. They were so beautifully constructed. And even the movies that weren't, like, you go back and you watch Iron Man 2 now, it's fucking, it's fun as fuck. You're looking at it, and
the introduction of Black Widow, which was not bad.
No, and when she takes down Happy, and the 23 movies of the Infinity Saga are, I can watch Infinity War and Endgame endlessly. Those movies pass the HBO test. I will just watch. If I have nothing to do for 20 minutes, I'll watch the opening of Endgame when just to watch when they go from the Sanctum Sanctorum to fighting Ebony Maw and the Black Order.
Yeah, no, I mean,
you know,
that's
on the streets in New York, and Spider-Man shows up. I'm like, this is fucking amazing.
But then the thing is, with Endgame, you get, it's not just, with those movies in Endgame, it's not just fluff. You get that Scott Lang going to the park and seeing his name, and there's all these,
and Tony Stark meeting his dad Howard and hanging out.
I mean, it's
amazing.
I mean, it's entertaining, but there's weight to it. Again, afterwards, it is what it is. I think the recover and it's weird because it's almost like, well, it's like, look, I'm never going to make a Marvel movie. I'm never going to make, like the weird me is my most beloved character was done perfectly in Werewolf by Night.
Right.
Right. Ted, the Man Thing. It's like, I mean, come on. I like, it brought me so much
Come on.
joy. Come on.
Man
It brought me
Thing.
so much joy. So there's, I mean, obviously it's like, I hope Marvel will be able to like course correct.
Well, we'll know in 2 months.
I think they will. I think the Fantastic Four stuff is all very exciting to hear about. But to me, I don't want to say Hollywood's dead or dying because I still want to be a part of this.
Well, yeah, no, Hollywood isn't. I
still want to make movies. And the thing is, what I would love, which I don't know if it'll ever happen for me personally, is I would love to be able to not have to fight so much for I mean, we always fight for the money, but it's like, that's the thing. The part that I miss about, the Corman world in a sense is like, yeah, here you go, kid. Here's some money. Go make a movie. And like Michael and I were talking about earlier today is like, I'd be happy. Like, let me make 3 movies a year. It's like, they're not going to be classics or great or anything like that. But the thing is like, let me just make the stuff that I want to make.
But that's what's huge budget. Too bad is that these places like Corman and Full Moon, they were never going to make their money in the movie theaters, but they were going to make money in the video store, whether it's mom and pop or blockbuster.
And they knew that before they started shooting.
And that was a second ancillary income that they could count on. Now, smaller places like Corman, there is none of that home video money guaranteed. And the streamers, hey, if you don't want us to let us take your movie for a crappy $30,000 for the worldwide rights, we'll get another one from Spain. It's a
it doesn't exist anymore.
There's no money for the smaller movies to make money.
What's really okay? Speaking of, there's a movie that came out. I think it's on. Is it on Shudder? It's around here somewhere. It's called The Coffee Table.
It hasn't come out yet, but I think it's coming to Shudder.
Okay, I have the DVD.
Well, you son of a bitch!
It's on the DVD. All I can say is everybody should watch The Coffee Table.
It's funny, Speaking of, this weekend we got.
By the way, thank you, Kino Lorber.
God damn. Well, at least we know where it's coming out from eventually, hopefully, maybe. This weekend we got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is what's burning up the box office this weekend.
Thank God.
Today I watched a really interesting movie made by a first-time director, Francis Galuppi, I believe is his name. It's called The Last Stop in Yuma County. It stars It stars Jocelyn Donahue, Jim Cummings, Richard Brakey, Barbara Crampton, Gene Jones.
It's great.
Sam Huntington.
Yep.
Is in it, and Alex Esso. It's a really cool, what he calls, I believe he described it as a dusty noir. It's all set. It's shot all at the Four Aces. Is it called Four Aces?
Yeah,
It's the gas station diner hotel set that is out in the desert here. It's a famous location. They shot like House of a Thousand Corpses there and things like that. It's really it's not transformative, but it's really good. It's really good.
By the way, Jim Cummings, I have a script that I've wanted to make for a very long time that I want Jim Cummings to play the lead in.
Jim Cummings is a really, really cool talent.
Yeah, he's my perfect lead.
He's definitely, you know, building a very cool resume, as the kids say now.
He started, I think he's with, and one of the principals, he started a new production company with 2 other guys. Now this brings us, dovetails into what I wanted to ask Michael about and what I want to ask you about, Dave. For me, you know, I'm finishing up this movie White Devils that I'm a producer on and doing some post work on it. And of course, you know, I'm doing an audio drama that we have both a combination of equity financing, meaning the money's coming from somewhere else, and then we're also going to crowdfund it. But we're going to crowdfund it after it's recorded, so almost after it's done. But the point is, we're going direct to our constituency that might hopefully buy it. Like I'm taking True Noir. I mean, the fact I got Max Allen Collins to be writing it and all the scripts are incredible, but we're going directly to the audience. And basically, in the case of True Noir, we're asking the audience, our supporters, to pre-buy it. You can pre-buy it, in this case, on multiple different formats. If you want to get a vinyl box set of all 10 episodes on vinyl with the 11th soundtrack album, you can get you can get it on CD. You can get a Blu-ray that has 3 different mixes of the show and all this video behind-the-scenes material. You can get digital downloads of it. However you want to get it, we're going direct to our constituency. Do I know if it's going to work? Don't know. But I'm going directly to the audience. And I think that that's a viable, we've seen other YouTubers like Young Ripa, Eric July, the Ripaverse. His first comic, Isom, he spent his own money and produced a 96-page graphic novel of a new character, a new comic character. He made millions of dollars by going to his YouTube audience. He spent $100,000 of his own money and then put it up for sale. Here's my product. You know, I didn't need the money to make it. Here's the product. Do you want it? And he made millions of dollars. It was a wild success, but he went directly to his audience that he was building on his own YouTube platform. Now, Michael, you did something insane. You kind of disappeared for a couple of years into your garage and you made this epic self-animated movie, this crazy satire. Stanley Kubrick would be proud, called Nixed, about Richard Nixon trying to solve the Kennedy assassination, and it is incredible. It had its world premiere at one of the most prestigious animation festivals in France. What's it called?
Annecy.
So you did this. So you hand animated and used digital technology to do a whole fucking movie by yourself. And then, of course, you hired actors to be the voiceover, and you had soundtrack music done and all that.
Yuri Lowenthal.
Yeah, and Yuri Lowenthal's in it. How long did it take you to do that?
Well, you know, the final product it took me 4 years, but I really had finished it in 3 years. But I made the mistake of using, for some of the backgrounds, I photoshopped the backgrounds to make them look more artistic and tuned. But I had to redo them because they looked like they were free, but they were on some wiki platform. And the lawyer said, well, technically, if you use that artwork that's from wiki, the rules are that someone can use your artwork created from the Wikiverse. So someone could literally take part of your movie and resell it, so I had to redo a third of the backgrounds because I didn't get the legal right. But I spent 4 years in my garage, and it was the greatest auteur experience because I was telling Dave today, if I did a sequence and I thought the pacing was slow, in the real world with live action, if you don't get it the day you're there, you're never going to get it. And it's going to be whatever you shot that day. But with me, I go, hey, I want to get 4 or 5 more shots. If I want to do the work, I could add the new shots. And I just,
now, as a result of that and everything you learned, you're doing it again.
Yeah,
you're doing it again, and you're not using something like Unreal Engine. You know, you're the artist, you're the drawer, you know, you're not using AI. Tell us about your new product that you're going to go direct to the consumer with.
Well, I had gone from the 2D animation, but I started teaching myself 3D animation with an easier program than Blender or Maya. It's called iClone 8. and it has all this great facial motion capture. It can do body motion capture. It makes it really easy to design characters. They have a thing where you take a photograph and it can immediately, if I did like Nick Cage, it would immediately get a character 90% Nick Cage rigged so he could do lip sync or whatever. So I was thinking, well, I need the IP. We were talking about how, everything's an IP. And I was thinking, well, why don't I do a CGI version of Shoot 'em Up? And I was thinking, yeah, but then I have to go to New Line, and are they going to go for it? Do I have to get the rights? The big hassle. And so I decided to do something that's a spiritual sequel to Shoot 'em Up, but it really isn't Shoot 'em Up, so I could own it 100%. So I'm making an animated sci-fi movie called Blast 'em Up. So instead of great gunfights, it's going to have great blaster fights. And it lets my imagination run wild. And the great thing is whatever I want to do, right? It looks, I have a big budget spaceships and, dogfights with spaceships and aliens and robots. I love all this stuff, right? But that's going to be a $150 million movie that nobody's going to let me make in live action, but I can do it myself. And there's so many great tools out there. It looks really good. And I want to also not only make this movie, I want to show other animators how you can make your own animated feature that looks really fucking great. And the other thing is that then nobody can stop me from making a movie. And when I'm 85, I can still make cool movies where all my live action filmmaker friends are going to be out to pasture. So I'm basically making an animated sci-fi follow-up to Shoot 'em Up.
Well, now I just want to say, with the popularity of anime surging, whether you're watching movies like Your Name or Satsume or Bell, or you're watching Gundam, or you're watching One Piece, or you're watching, and I love the new Evangelion movie 3.0.1 or whatever, which I'm going to buy in 4K, or even speaking of that.
You're going to buy something on 4K? What?
I know.
What?
Paprika. I'm a Satoshi Kon fan.
It's called paprika, not paprika.
Okay, paprika. We call it
Paprika.
But I love this movie, and I love Satoshi Kon. So, and I love Paranoia Agent. But anyway, but the point is that you're going to go direct to your audience, an audience that's now primed to watch all different kinds of. Now, this is not a video game movie. You're not going for photorealism here. No, you're going through a stylization that's unique to you.
Yeah, it's kind of like I love the look of Arcane, but that takes a lot of work. So it's sort of Arcane light. I'm not going for realism, but I'm not going for cartoony. But going back, I'm launching a Kickstarter. It launches this Tuesday. It's called Blast 'em Up. And I am asking for the help of the fans of movies and animation to help me fund getting great actors, doing the mocap shoots, storage drives, models, composer, all the things I can't do. And then everything else I'm going to try to do myself. And if I meet the stretch goals, maybe there's a little bit of money so I can pay myself so I can quit doing my freelance jobs and work on it 100%. And so I'm basically going to try the crowdfund thing.
Well, now, and I think for filmmakers, we've seen recently Chris Stuckman, who is a big YouTuber. He made Shelby Oaks. He crowdfunded that. And now he just had Mike Flanagan, whose last thing he did was follow the House of Usher, doing all the stuff that he had done in Black Mass and doing Dr. Sleep. He's a huge guy in horror, and he came on board. So Stuckman did the same thing, went to his constituency, went to the audience, asked them to support, and now his movie's debuting at Fantasia in Montreal.
Wow.
And
the one thing that we talk about, there's everybody's so distracted. They're playing video games, they're social media, and I call it noise, right? And the one reason I thought I could do this Kickstarter is because of you, Rob. I first thought of you because what I'm going to do is, instead of promoting it myself or promoting it on Robservations, I actually got 13 movie geek YouTubers that are supporting Blast 'Em Up that hopefully will cut through the noise, because they're all going to be letting me get on the show, talking their shows, their channels, talking about Blast 'Em Up, and some of them are going to have me on as several times as I go through the journey of making the movie. So instead of Chris Stuckman had a dedicated audience, which is going to succeed, you have a dedicated audience for your Nathan Heller books.
Maybe.
Right?
I don't know.
I don't have that, right? But I think that the thing that I think is really interesting is that I'm going to do it on 13 different platforms. Hopefully that it'll cut through the noise and people will know about it, and they'll say, hey, I love sci-fi. I'd love to see Michael Davis do another shoot 'em up, and with him having complete freedom. And so that's sort of the concept. But I wouldn't do it if I couldn't have started with you. I started the whole thing, everybody. I went to Rob and I said, I have this idea. I want to get a bunch of YouTubers to support Blast 'Em Up and talk about it. Would you do it? And you said, I've been thinking about doing something like this for forever. Yes. And then I go, great. And I built upon that, and it gave me the confidence and the credibility that then I went to other YouTubers. I'm going to be on Midnight's Edge. I'm going to be on this guy Space Ice, who did this great review of Shoot 'Em Up. I mean, I got all these great guys, and Gotham Geek Girl. It's just, I'm just overwhelmed by the support, but I also think it should be interesting to see whether or not this coalition can make it succeed.
Sorry, Rob. Michael, can you talk a little bit about your cast a little bit more, who you have available to you? and then I think, Rob, we have something we can show people, right? Just to give them a little taste.
It might be easier,
maybe we do.
Why don't you show it now, and then it'll make more sense to people.
Okay, then I think we should do that. I think we should show what you can.
Okay, let's see. Maybe I can. Did it not? Okay, sorry. Wait, hang on. That was, let me try this then. Hold on. Let me see if I can try this. Hang on. No, that's a different one. You know what? I don't know why. Hang on. Those put it on, and I apologize. Let me stop. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Hang on, let me. I just.
Please stand by. We are having technical.
Please stand by. Yeah, that's me.
One of the reward tiers. I made 40 sci-fi themed gifts that you can text to people
for free.
Well, there's 5 for free, but if you back the project, you can get 40 of them, and some of them are really, really funny.
40?
40.
Wow.
40 free gifts. I mean, not free, but 40 gifts for it's the level 1. And I mean, and plus you get to see the movie when it's done, and all this stuff. But
that's amazing.
Super fun. I would want to have those. I actually start using them. Like the easiest one is I have an alien clapping. So when everybody does something to help me out, I send this. Or you have the Star Trek one. It's a guy in a transporter and he beams, right? And then it says, "I'm beaming," right? A guy flying in a dogfight past a moon, and it's like, I'm over the moon, right? My favorite one, although and people haven't seen it, and TikTok sort of sometimes doesn't like lewd things, but I have this alien who has this like other alien appendage come out of its crotch, and then it says the word dick. Well, wouldn't you want to text that to one of your friends who said something that pissed you off? You go,
wouldn't you want to?
Right? I have another one where there's no gravity and a guy is floating, and you see these floating toilets and the turds come out. It's like,
let me try this again.
Okay, anyway, there you go.
I've been thinking. It's just good business. I'm sorry.
activated.
Think of all the things that think these days. Everything.
What a way to make a living.
Wait, gets worse.
Wow, that's really cool. I mean, I love the look of it is unique, and I mean, I've never seen anything quite look like that, and the dynamic camera moves and all that is really the action, the verve, the energy, and it's really, really cool. So is this going to be a feature?
It's going to be a feature-length film. The script is written. It's basically like it's a sci-fi heist film. A little bit of an homage to the original Italian Job. That's why the Masterson character looks like Michael Caine.
Right.
Ideally, although if I raise enough money on the Kickstarter, I'll make an offer to Clive Owen. I kind of modeled the hero after Clive Owen. If I don't get him, then it'll be somebody else. But I'd love to get Clive Owen. I just for fun, although it kind of so far hasn't been successful, there's a character named Tony Dammit, because every line he says damn it at the end of it, because it's kind of funny. It's like, hey Rob, how you doing, damn it? You know, this is great being on the show, damn it. But I modeled it after this YouTuber Markiplier, right? You know, because he has like 30 million followers, and he wants to be an actor. And, you know, I thought that somebody would see it and say, hey, Mark, you want to be in the movie? And then maybe he could help me with my Kickstarter. But so far, Mark hasn't seen it. But so all the casting is hypothetical. But the amazing thing about this software is that if I have a Clive Owen character and all of a sudden I have to do, let's say I get Nick Cage and I model a Nick Cage avatar, with one click of the button, all the animation I've done changes the Clive Owen into, Nick Cage. And it's like, okay, so it's not like I have to reanimate the whole thing. It's just the technology is so amazing. So the look is, I can't do realistic, and I don't want people to be looking for this high end. And so what I've done is that in Photoshop, I take the texture maps that they try to make realistic, and I do like this oil paint kind of, so it's more of a slight texture. And I distort the proportions so the eyes are a little bit bigger. They're a little characters. If you're thin, you're really thin, or if you're strong, you're really strong. So people aren't expecting realism because the proportions, but they're realistic enough that it's going to be R-rated. It's going to be like Shoot 'em Up. It's going to have the fun, crazy violence. You remember in Shoot 'em Up, he was making love to Monica Bellucci, and they have the great shootout. I can do all that kind of stuff because the characters are realistic enough that the tone, you'd say, I buy that with that kind of design.
Well, I love it because it has a sort of a French feel to it, you know, like a heavy metal / Fifth Element / and that's what I really like. I mean, I like the unique look. The same thing you did on Nixed. You know, you had a really interesting feel to it, and I grew up loving foreign animation. One of my favorite animated movies is still Fantastic Planet. You know,
I mean, no one's perfect.
Oh, come on, man.
I'm more in the Dave camp. I didn't really like the drawing style. There's so many, and I appreciate that you love that, right? But like, it's more like a Barbarella kind of.
It's not because the animation style for that is not for me.
It's photo cutout animation. It's limited animation.
I understand that.
But I think the important thing, guys, and people watching this, you have to remember, with what you just saw, this man did it all.
He
did everything. He did everything himself. That's renegade
Well,
road
yeah, and that's
cinema filmmaker right there.
and that's what I'm most interested in is that
This is the person who doesn't give zero. He gives zero fucks about what anyone else says, and he's doing it himself.
well, yes, and I think is going to be the future of this kind of thing. Like I've often said, as the critical drinker, I open all my shows with the critical drinker on Russell Brand saying that I said that authenticity is the currency of the 21st century. And when we live in an AI-drenched world where people can use prompts and they think they're artists and they're creating symphonies and art and all that, eventually, I think there's going to be, and no one's talked about this, I want somebody to talk about this, that AI is going to develop. We already know that on the internet, they're having a problem with AI because AI learns through what it's scraping off the internet. But now there's so much AI generated content on the internet that AI, which is self-generative AI, is starting to collapse because it's learning on AI generated material that doesn't, after like a 10th generation, it collapses in.
It's so funny because there's the late 70s, 80s, everybody was making original IP. And our filmmakers, we would take things from our own lives, right? But then the next generation that loved the movies were making movies that were informed by other movies, right? And they got less good and less genuine. But it's so funny that the AIs are following the path of what the crappy later on filmmakers made because they were just copying themselves. So the AI is failing like we have.
Oh, no, it's true. But I think what's going to happen is that people are going to go to creators like yourself and you're going to develop a fan base. I mean, you're using all kinds of computer technology to assist you in doing this. But what they're going to get and what everybody's going to have to sell is themselves. People are going to get pure, uncut Michael Davis. And the people that are interested, and you're going to go direct to them.
Yeah,
if they want
I'm hoping that it will inspire others. If I show them how I did it, then maybe they'll make some cool moves with their own authenticity. And the great thing I like about the technology is that the production value, like you look at Clerks, and the great thing about it is the writing and the performances, but the production values is nothing. I kind of feel like I have the production value of a bigger, CGI movie, but it's just me. And that's what's going to be great is that you're going to be an independent filmmaker, but it's going to almost rival what the studios do. And hopefully it'll exceed what the studios do because I'm not going to be encumbered by the committees telling me what to do. And
well, you're basically becoming an independent studio yourself.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's an exaggeration, and the also thing is it's freaking fun. I mean, I told Dave is that I'm a good director. I liked making live action movies, but I have to tell you, it's incredibly stressful on the set. Every day you're wondering, am I going to get that shot? Am I going to be missing that shot? Oh, is the scene going to be lumbering because I didn't get enough coverage? And most of the time on the set, if you're a good director, everybody knows what you want. So you're just sitting around twiddling your thumbs and that you literally work 5 minutes a day giving a little note to an actor. And it's really boring, but stressful, right? I like working. And when I'm animating these movies, I'm working 95% of the time, whether it's lighting or designing or animating. And the other thing is the reason why these Disney Pixar movies cost so much is there's so many levels of communications. You got a storyboard, and then you got to go back and the director changes it. And then you got the character animator does the scene and it's not quite right. And there's all these changes to get someone to approve it. Well, if I'm all those people in one, I'm doing 10 jobs, right? And I'm streamlining it. It's going to get done faster and more close to an vision the first time. And that's why it's going to be cheaper, but closer to the quality. Anyway.
Now, Michael, let me ask you something. I'm curious. How do you feel about AI and using it as a tool for your potential creative endeavor?
Now, by the way, I want to combine that with, we have a viewer, I am Jax 12 asks, where do you see the future of VR within the space of cinema?
And we've got a couple other ones too.
Yeah,
Okay, well, why don't we'll do the VR question first. Let me go answer Dave's question. I'm not against AI. because you're never gonna win. It's like, what was that Michael Bay LA Times ad? I'm gonna be the last Maverick shooting on film, right? And now everybody shoots on video, right? Because you can get more takes. It's less expensive. You're going to make the movie better. Why are you fighting it to sound like you're the last Maverick? You're not going to stop the onslaught of AI. At this point, it's taken me so long to just learn the existing software to do what I'm doing. I don't really yet want to stop to learn AI to aid me. And yes, I've seen some pretty amazing stuff that's out there. But until it's like really easy to get the results that you want, I'm going to stick with something that has more of my hand in it. And it's more fun I'm still like directing the actors. Sometimes I'll actually film myself doing the performance as a mocap. And then obviously I have to modify it and stuff. But my soul, my performance, me is dropped into the character. I don't really want to type some words and then it shows up and you go, oh, I want the angle to be a little higher, and then type it in. And it just doesn't feel like fun, but I'm not against it. And at some point, it's going to be a really great tool, but the tool is not there yet for me to get the look that I want and to have fun doing it. My wife is so amazing. She got me, a VR thing, and there's a different experience in VR in that you, the viewer, are controlling the experience. You're looking around, and granted, I've seen some great narrative stuff with VR where obviously the staging draws your eye to a certain, event or whatever. But it's not like, hey, I'm the filmmaker and I want to give you this angle and I want to give you this cut. And also in VR, I've seen them do some cuts, but it's more of a mise en scène singular because you're living it. And so it's a different kind of cinema. But I tend to, because I come from an illustrator, I love compositions. I love different composition, cut different composition. And there's an editorial composition of how you put shots together and how they're moving together. And that's what I love about the cinema art form is it's music, but the imagery becomes music. The movement in a shot combined with another shot with movement is like music. And with VR, there may be somebody that figures out how to do it in VR, but right now it's more of a Alfred Hitchcock rope kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, for me though, VR is going to be a different experience because look, I think ultimately narrative. I've often said that I think that the way cinema was the art form of the 20th century, I think gaming, specifically VR gaming, is going to be, I think, probably the same thing that happened in Hollywood around 1927 with the advent of sound is probably going to happen with deep learning AI, with computational speeds, and with whatever happens with the kinds of software. People want to be their own protagonists in their own story nowadays. And with VR, you're going to get like a Ghost of Tsushima where you're the main character, and you're going to be in a virtual world, and you'll be able to spend like that Ready Player One thing is going to happen. But people are going to, whether you're on the difference is how do you convince a human being? You have to have some kind of a platform where you're walking. You can't generate a VR world that is inside an environment yet. You can't have a holodeck yet. Maybe glasses that'll give you augmented reality, like if you're going to play a video game where if you want to play like a Walking Dead game, I could see wearing VR goggles like Apple's new Vision Pro where it shows your neighborhood but overgrown as if it's 10 years into the zombie apocalypse. And you'll be able to play a game in real time or something in VR, whether it's Unreal Engine, and they'll just map over the actual, and you'll be wandering around your neighborhood with the firearm, which could probably be problematic.
Well, that's kind of like the high-end augmented reality, which you have now. You're walking, but VR doesn't have to be augmented. It can be, I'm a filmmaker. This is my world that you're stuck in.
Right.
And you'll probably get there sooner. And I have to say, even though I was surprised how great the experience was and how immersive it was and how natural it was to look around. I think it's even now it's really pretty fantastic.
Which experience?
What's the one that
like Oculus or
Corman does? Oculus. That's the one I have. It is like being in a video game, but it's 360 and you can move forward. People need to figure out. And again, if it's a gaming experience, but I've actually wanted to just I played some of the things that are more like story experiences, and they're getting there, but sometimes the pacing is a little bit off because if you don't go in the right path, then it's like, what am I supposed to do? And then you get there and then there's an event. And so there's an issue of pacing, but I do think it's just like filmmakers like in 1927 when you first had sound, or they thought that editing from a wide shot to a close-up would be too jarring for an audience.
Right. Yep.
And then the filmic language evolved. Somebody is going to figure out the VR language and make that pacing problem and the mise-en-scène problem go away. And you're going to have a narrative experience. Yes, you can participate, but it's not going to be one of these things like, fuck, I don't know where the key is and I can't move forward like a video game. It's going to be more like a passive experience that you have some moments. You feel like you're living in the movie, but it's still a passive dream.
That's what I was going to say. The next stage of VR and these things will be you are in the movie. You are living the movie.
Yeah, and I think that's going to come if Elon Musk makes Neuralink an actual, it'll be like Brainstorm. All of our...
the only thing I have to say is if I'm living the movie, right, I'm not as interesting as Tom Hanks or Sean Connery.
But you can be.
You to watch somebody give a performance or just
no. It's going to be a different experience, completely, of course. But you can like a box of chocolates. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know.
I just think also the potential to abuse this. Humanity is going to go. Some people are going to go down a very, very dark path with what VR can provide you.
Well, of course, like Brainstorm. I'm more than I was before.
Yeah. If you can interrupt and you can pump in, because everything that we perceive is just electrical impulses that our parts of our body are sending to our brain, and you cut into that and you can feed anybody anything you want, then we're going to have true virtual reality.
Right.
Where your body will just be sitting somewhere and it'll make it seem like you'll think about walking, it'll feel like you're walking, but you're not really walking. It'll be the Matrix. It'll be the
I hope I live long enough to reach that. I don't know whether I'm going to make it when I'm going to be alive when it gets to be that perfect.
But here's the thing. So that by the way, that was the VR question came to us from I'm Jax 12. I want to point that out. By the way, Thomas Logan said, Mike, if you convince Paul Giamatti to attach his name to Blast 'Em Up, you could easily raise $80 million for a live action movie. Gareth Edwards, the creator, was an $80 million film.
Yeah, I think because he had his previous movie was a hit. Because my movie wasn't a hit, they're still going to say Michael Davis doesn't have a hit behind me, even if I get the star. And I guess I'm at the point where I've chased the money so much. And I've actually, on my Kickstarter site, I have a quote from Orson Welles. At the end of his career, he said, I spent 95% of my time looking for money rather than making stuff.
Yep.
And then he says, I wasted my life. And I want to get to the point where I have the freedom that I don't need to chase somebody, that if you got Paul Giamatti, you might get the $80 million. I don't want to have to do that dance in the chase. I would rather have a much smaller audience, but spend the time having fun making stuff rather than going and taking meetings and convincing people. And then you're beholden to so many people. And then you don't have as much freedom.
Then it becomes a different thing than what you're doing. I get it.
But I understand that, and that could happen. But I'm old now, and I just like sitting, listening to Nathan Heller novels and everything. And I'm here 18 hours a day. And
wait till you hear the audio drama, dude. Wait till you read. The scripts are incredible.
Yeah. And I'm not sitting there on the set twiddling my thumbs. It's boring directing. It's fucking boring and stressful because you're waiting for all these other people, right? And if you're too much of a pusher, like you got to move faster, then you're the asshole. And then if you're too much of a cheerleader, they go, Michael Davis is a pushover. I can walk rather than hustle to get this done, right? It's just pre-production, screenwriting is fun, editing is fun. But being on the set is just a fucking pain in the ass. And I agree with Hitchcock. He hated being on the set too. But here I'm the master of everything. And I'm the total auteur. And now I love lighting. And I get to be the production designer. I get to be the cameraman. And yes, I'll have a much smaller audience. But I'm going to be enriched by it's just so much freaking fun to make a space drama all by myself.
Well, bravo, sir. That's the kind of rant. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Question and those $80 million movies. The guy's a genius. What he squeezes out of that because he understands the value of money, the value of time, and a lot of these movies that cost 150 million to 200 million could be done for the same price. But I have to tell you, like I was storyboarding on a movie and my friend was on it. And it was a big action drama, and the director would be driving to the set, and he would call his assistant, and he'd say, so what scene are we shooting today? The guy's getting $20 million to direct the movie, and he doesn't know what he's shooting that day. So now he's going to need 3 or 4 days.
He's fired on my. He's fired.
Can you imagine?
In a half a day, right? That's why it's the hubris of these lazy people, right? And that you could make these movies for a lot cheaper if people were dedicated and focused. But these people like the luxury of being the big director, and they want the longer schedules because they don't want to sweat it. And they can call. So what scene are we shooting today?
Hey, Michael.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm curious, though. What have you seen recently? And I'll give you like a 2-year breadth that you've loved.
I thought that movie Dev Patel director was Monkey Man.
Man.
Okay. No, I can't believe that guy is such a great director. It's unbelievable. It's just like all the editing and the action and the fact that he had the action, but then he had all this drama and he starred in it. You know how hard it is to direct when you can't see what's happening in the camera and the framing and all that stuff and the ambition of it. And I'm like so excited for the guy because he's this thin guy, he was in Slumdog Millionaire and, he could have gone the route of being sort of the funny wimpy guy, but he goes to be this badass and he directs the movie. And the thing is just freaking awesome. And it has the feel of an independent movie, but it's also a gigantic movie. And I hope it's a hit around the world because I'm such a fan of him and his movie.
Okay. Since you brought that up, another thing about that movie I think that's really interesting is that movie was originally going to be streaming. Yeah. And Jordan Peele saw it. And Jordan Peele, who has a deal at Universal, went to Universal's brass and said, yo, this movie's going to streaming. I want to acquire it. I want you guys to acquire it. If you do it underneath my banner, whatever you want to do, I want to acquire it and put it out theatrically.
Well, also, I'm not going to get it right, but apparently there's a political element to it, and there are a bunch of these candidates that are corrupt, and it was kind of a statement of what's going on in India. And apparently the streamer, was it with Netflix, got so much pressure about the politics in it that they thought it was a hot potato and they let it go. So it wasn't just Jordan Peele saying, hey, this could be a theatrical experience. Right. He saved it. And when I watched the movie, I'm like, what could be this is what movies should be. It should be talking, even if it's a fictional movie, it should have meaning in our own lives and could be critical of things. And then Netflix says we don't want to do it. That's a plus for the movie. Make more people want to watch it.
The only thing I would say about Monkey Man that they failed on, he should have wore the mask more.
No, I don't know. No, I like to see the face.
No, I know
he failed on is they should have had more of the woman in it that was, that was working at the club, but she was so cute. I would have liked to see more of her.
Yeah, she kind of got forgotten.
Yeah. But
You kind of got forgotten, and the dog got forgotten too.
yeah, the dog. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because I thought the dog was going to come in and kick
I did
ass.
too. I did too.
And I think he probably wanted to, if you ask him, and he probably ran out of time and got coverage on other stuff. But come on, what a monumental accomplishment! I want to see what he's going to do. But the thing is, he's really. I wish. The great thing is if you can be an actor director, because then all of a sudden you have the casting that gets the movie made, right? If he continues to rise as a star, he'll be able to keep getting movies made because he'll say, well, I'll star in it.
Did you see the movie that he starred in called The Green Knight?
Yeah.
No,
I
I wanted to go see it. But
It's a really good movie, and he's great in it.
But-
I like him a lot. And I went and saw Monkey Man in the theater, which
I did too.
apparently a lot of people unfortunately didn't.
Well, I do. They're probably, number one, it probably didn't get marketed as well. And he's not a big enough star. But I really wonder how it did in India. I'm hoping it's like, how they make Mulan because they can then distribute it in
Sure,
China and
yeah.
make a ton of money. I'm hoping that their financial plan was, hey, the United States is gravy, but we're going to make a ton of money in India and Southeast Asia.
So Universal acquired it for less than 10 million, and its domestic take here is 25 million dollars. It made 25 million domestically,
so it's in it's going to be in profit.
Worldwide, it's made 33, but it has not opened in India yet.
Oh,
Okay.
see, that is going to be really interesting.
I mean, but all the other European countries, it made very little money, except in the UK, where it made $2 million because of probably marketing, because it was never, it made okay money, and it made
marketed as an Indian John Wick.
Yes.
I
It's
mean,
not exactly
Less
what the
guns
movie
and
is.
more
No.
fists.
But here's what I wanted to ask you, back to what you want to do with Blast 'em Up. So do you see your future, and I think the future of a lot of us, because obviously with our Nathan Heller project, we're hoping to succeed. I don't know if anyone's going to want to, I mean, audio dramas and podcasts are popular, but is anybody going to want to listen to a feature film sounding audio drama that's 8 hours long, even though it's adapted?
Absolutely. I think your challenge is like with every other indie film, is you need to get people to be aware of it.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to do. But what the point is, we're going to go directly to the audience, just like you are.
Well, the thing is that I see, because I listen to a lot of Audible.
Right.
Yes, me too.
Like I'm constantly physically reading a book or two at the same time. And then I'm also listening to something on Audible. And a lot of the times I listen to these dramatizations because I like it. It's a movie in your head. One of the last ones I listened to was with Natasha Lyonne. It was a 60s sci-fi sort of parody that was an Audible original.
Right.
But it was a full cast and everything, and it was great.
Well,
it's an entirely different audience that you're going after. But the thing is, yes, I believe those things exist. Rob, I don't know if you are aware of this, but on Audible,
Yeah.
speaking to the Marvel fans, Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars, there is an Audible original with a full cast and soundtrack and sound effects and everything
Yeah.
of Secret Wars.
And yeah. So I mean, I hope. But the question though is, we're going direct to the audience, and I think for the things that I want to do, like the movie I want to make with Jim Cummings, is an $8 to $10 million film. There's no way I could get that off the ground unless somebody wanted to make it. It's based on a novel.
I taught you the CGI and you did it.
Well, yeah, I mean, but but it really is contingent upon it's set in Seattle. It's set in 1999 Seattle, and I really want to do it. But the problem is not it's how do you get that? How do you get the money paid back? With independent distribution, if you make a $10 million movie, the hope would then be to sell it to a streamer for like $15 million, which is on the outside of possibility. But when you do that, then you pay back your investor, and he takes his 30% or 15%. So you sell.
It's not always the thing. How do you make your money back?
That's the problem. How do you make your money back?
This is the thing that I always found frustrating about indie films is you need to get the right scaled star to take an $8 million movie, but the star is big enough that Netflix buys it for 15.
Right.
But the problem is to get the star to get you the 15, they're probably 14, and you need another 8 to make the movie.
Yeah.
And
right.
So you're still behind the 8 ball. The actors, the math never works out. To get the big enough star, your movie becomes too expensive to go into profit. The only reason why it sometimes works is you get the actor saying, I love this so much and it'll help my career because it's such a great part, I want to do it. But most of the time, and because the actors feel like, hey, it took me 8 years to become an $8 million actor. If I do a movie for $1 million, some people might think that's my new asking price, and I can't get back up to the 8 million on the others. So I want to just take movies that keep me at my asking price or increase it, right? And so that, like even on Shoot 'Em Up, I mean, we cast Clive. He said yes. And then all of a sudden he wanted to do Children of Men. And we were asked, could we move our schedule to go 6 months, 7 months later so he could go do Children of Men, right? And we said, fine. But then, you know how the actors want to get paid more after each movie. They said, well, now that he's doing this other movie, he wants to get paid more than what he got paid on Children of Men. And we said, we just did you a favor, but now you want us to pay more to do you the favor. And it's just so absurd. But of course, New Line went forward. It was fine, but it's still kind of like, hey, it's just like, but
the thing is, what's interesting, and Rob, what I like what you're doing, and I'm really looking forward to what you're doing with this. It's remind the audience. It's called True. What's the title?
Okay, it's called True Noir.
True Noir.
From the Nathan Heller case books, and it's so Max Allan Collins, who wrote the graphic novel that Road to Perdition is based on. He also wrote Dick Tracy for many years, the comic strip in the Chicago Tribune. He took over from Mickey Spillane's estate, the Mike Hammer novels. But then Nathan Heller, he also wrote a series of books about a character named Quarry that Cinemax made into a year-long show. But so the Nathan Heller novels is about a fictional detective that gets involved in real historical events. So
it's the Lindbergh baby case is one of the earlier ones.
Yeah, and so he gets, and it's all real people that he interacts with, and Max has meticulously researched all of these cases, and some of them are not solved, so there's wiggle room around what happened. And so I really like this because I loved audio dramas when I was a kid. But what we're doing is we're making it, my idea is it's a movie, but there's no cinema. So the audio, it's being mixed as if it's a feature film.
But again, that's the thing. That's what I'm interested in with this stuff, and what I love about listening to the Audible originals that are dramatized. And funny enough, a lot of the time when I go to sleep to, because there are times when like I'll throw on a movie and go to sleep too. And we've all done it. But what I've found myself doing more and more often is on YouTube, you can find the Twilight Zone radio episodes.
Yeah.
And those are very easy to go to sleep to.
And the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, you can find those too.
There's so much of that stuff.
What about falling asleep to those spaceship ambient sounds?
I do that too. I do the ambient tracks so much.
But
I just have to make sure that there's no weird thing that pops up in the middle of the night, like going, or something like that. But I love, because it's the movie of the mind. It's the immersiveness of it in that sense that I am really excited about with what you're doing, because you really are making something immersive, old radio show kind of thing. And for some, maybe I'm just old and antiquated or whatever, but I appreciate that, because the thing is, it's the same thing like when we read a novel that's, fiction, we make up the scenario, we make up the visuals ourselves as we're reading it. So what I think you're doing is there's such a huge important need for this. And I think it's really great.
It's interesting. I think I mentioned earlier on that I didn't listen to rock and roll. I just listened to the James Bond movies that I taped off the TV or in the theater, right? Yours is a way better version of that. So I know that I'm totally set for that. But the other thing I was going to say that hopefully will encourage you. So this sci-fi writer, science fantasy or fantasy writer, Brandon Sanderson?
Oh, dude, I know. Yeah.
Okay, you know about his Kickstarter,
Oh,
right?
yeah, he's made...
Four books, $41 million.
Oh,
right?
And he's got a new single book out that's made like 20.
Right. And he skipped the publishers and he just went to his fans. And I think maybe part of it is that, I'm a Nathan Heller fan. If you also combine it with your showmanship, but you get Max involved and you kind of get, maybe you should look at the kicks. I watched the Brandon Sanderson video. It's kind of interesting how he did it. It was really about him and connecting with his audience, and because there's no visuals, it's all him. But I liked, oh my God, I haven't read enough of his stuff, but if I were a nut for him, I'm like, oh my God, he's talking to me.
Well, that's it's a combination of that, because like we took Todd Stashwick to Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I filmed him walking around where he was a young upstart actor. He's part of Second City. We went to Second City, and he's just talking about what it's like and what it was, and then Max Allan Collins. I went to Iowa where he lives, and I interviewed him in a speakeasy about the character of Nathan Heller. So all that stuff is part of the Kickstarter, the Ask video, and the Ask video starts with me going, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. It is I, and let me tell you what I loved when I was a little kid. And I play snippets from the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, the Power Records books, the Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
Wait, Rob, let me tell you how immersive I am. I just got this.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
That's a Power record, isn't it?
This is how immersive I am.
Is that from Power Records?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. See, because I recognize the font. I never had that, but I, listening to those stories, and now, what we're going to do. But the point I was trying to make here is not to necessarily to promote our Kickstarters, but it's the fact that we are going directly to our audience. So there's no middleman. And to be honest, what's really interesting is I have no idea in terms of this audio drama if it's going to work. But one of the things that we're doing is we are not raising money based on who's in it, because we pushed our Kickstarter campaign until the end of June, actually. But we're still in production. So by the time the Kickstarter launches, we will be pretty much done with production. As a matter of fact, Major Chai Chai asks, she's a channel member too, if we're still planning on debuting at San Diego Comic-Con. Yes. We want to debut in a movie theater. So you're going to come into a movie theater because it's 5.1 full stereo surround mix, and we turn off all the lights. So, and then we'll do a Q&A afterwards with the cast and hopefully Max, and that's what we want to do. And we're doing 8 hours, and the scripts are blowing me away. But the point is, so like with you, if our real goal is to do 4 of these, like 4 8-hour episodes, and then try and sell the TV series that's set in the 60s, like I was telling you. But we'll have these 4 8-hour, and if people don't like, if that's all we make, I would have controlled them. It's the first time that I'm being allowed to control every aspect of production. I got my writer, I got my sound designers, and they're listening. They're taking all the cues from me. I've got a casting director. If you knew who you're going after, when the cast is announced, we're casting this like a hip indie movie, a hip indie crime thriller.
Well, the other thing that I think that we haven't talked about, we've talked about Dave and me and why we love it. But I wanted to tell you, my daughter, she's 21, and when she's like drawing, she's an illustration major. She goes and she listens. She goes on Twitch And they have these artists that are talking while they're making art or doing something, and it's kind of like listening to a guy playing a video game talking about other things. There is an untapped youth audience that wants to be listening to something that is enriching. They're not picking the greatest things to listen to, but they want to have something that is kind of filling their minds while they're doing something that they can do the two activities, listening and drawing or whatever. And if you could find a way to reach out to like my daughter's age and say, look, there's a much higher quality of experience that you can do your illustrations, but you're also going to be living this story in your head. It could be an enormous audience, because you really don't want to go, and, I mean, I can say I love it, but I'm the old fart, and, Dave's less old and less farty, but you really want to grab the bigger audience, and they are listening, to, a mystery podcast. You just need to get to these people and say, it is better than the other stuff out there, which it will be.
Yeah, it would. No, it's going to be quite exquisite. What's really interesting to me is when I was in Portland on a shoot last October for our crisis medicine stuff, and my friend Clark Von Trotha Clark took me to a show, and I saw this woman, and her name's Via Margot. Well, her band is Via Margot on you can find her on Instagram, and she was playing with a guitarist, just the two of them, and she was playing a theremin.
Oh yeah,
a theremin. And with the guitarist, the two of them, they are incredible. She's unbelievably talented, and now she's touring with like Echo and the Bunnymen or something. But she's
Didn't
on.
they use a theremin on the original Star Trek?
Well, yeah. well, but but what was interesting was I didn't realize that she was there for an arts festival that they just booked these gigs almost last minute. But she has an audience that knows all about her because of social media. And that's one thing that we artists or we filmmakers or we whatever you're making, game makers, comic book makers or whatever, never had before. And now social media properly employed, you can create things. And this is the first time I've wanted to do things like the Imagination Connoisseur's book that I'm going to do after this, but go to social media and sell direct to the consumer. So you have an exact... Are people going to support?
Hopefully, the second time you do it, the next phase will be easier because you've already have a built-in audience.
I hope so.
And then you're just building upon it, and they stay there. And that's,
because the way I want to do this audio drama, frankly, it's a low-budget indie movie. It's a micro-budget indie movie. You're looking at overall, if the way I wanted to do 8 hours of this, because it's all talent and audio engineering.
But I like the independent film analogy, but the fact that having heard it, it sounds like a big budget movie. That
right.
The indie angle is
the
way that you're doing it, but the actual product is so rich that maybe you need a different kind of language to describe it, because
I would say the same thing about what you're doing, Michael.
Yes, I would say the same thing.
Because you're doing something very expansive, very rich, with limited means and everything. And I think, look, I think someone like Roger Corman would be proud of both of you for what you're doing.
By the way, Nick Markin sends in Nick Markin sends in a super chat and says, "Rest in peace, Roger Corman. I love his Carnosaur movies."
Oh yeah! Woo! Woo!
And Hunter Becknell just sends in some money, and which is nice. And Dino Dude 6 has become a new member of the channel.
I got a little Carnosaur story for you. So, when Carnosaur was made, a friend of mine actually built and designed the T-Rex Carnosaur for the movie, animatronic, and I got to go to his studio and watch him build the Carnosaur, and then when the movie actually opened, this was a time still in the 90s when Carnosaur actually played in a theater. and they brought the Carnosaur to the theater as a display piece, and it was pretty awesome. It was a full size, full T-Rex just sitting there in the lobby of the theater, and that was Kenneth J. Hall.
Oh wow!
On many who wrote the first draft of Puppet Master for Charlie, worked on many of the Empire films and everything else. And yeah, Carnosaur was awesome. Carnosaur 2 even better.
That reminds me, because I was talking about directing and authenticity, and the thing is the director is a beneficiary of so many great artists. Like the whole movie, everybody loves it because of this T-Rex. It's not because of what the director did. And somebody was telling me about War of the Worlds. They were on such a compressed schedule that they started designing things like the aliens and, spaceships and parts of aliens and all this stuff. And they didn't even have time because Spielberg was on another movie. He didn't have a chance to talk to people. So what they did is they made multiple versions of them, and they spent like $5 or $6 million on all these designs. And then they put them in a soundstage. And then Spielberg came in and goes, I like that one. I don't like that one. I like that one. I like that one. Right. And that's cool that you have all that power, but the artistry is really the unsung heroes. The people behind the scenes are creating all the things that we love, but everybody gives the credit to the filmmaker that's on top.
Right.
And sometimes that makes me so mad. Like I have this, this is so crazy, but I have this idea of wanting to prove my point that I wanted to direct a movie blind, that I'm going to build this permit, right? That it's going to make me blind for 2 months. And then all of a sudden I have an assistant that reads me the script. I only can do it for a short. And then we would do an audition, and I would only be able to tell the performance from a vocal performance. And I go, and then I'd ask, is this person beautiful? What do they look like? Right. And then because I can draw, I can do composition storyboards blind. Right. And then I'm going to go on the set and I'm going to have told people, I'm going to say, I can walk blindly and say, this is where the camera goes. And then we're going to make the movie, and I'm going to have somebody with me for 24 hours so they know that I'm not cheating, that I'm going to be blind for all these times. And then I'm going to talk to the editor, because I had a friend who edited a rock video for Stevie Wonder, and his manager came in and they showed Stevie Wonder the video, right? And the manager would say, and now we cut to you, now it's a close-up, and now it's a wide shot with the dancers. They were getting Stevie Wonder's approval on the rock video, but he couldn't even see it, right? But then, so then you're going to make this movie, and then it's also going to be a documentary of the behind the scenes of me directing blind, and then you're going to show the movie, and then I'm going to take the movie off, and then I'm going to watch it, and I think the movie will be pretty damn good, and I'm going to show that the filmmaking process, the director is a beneficiary. I know. Beneficiary of all these other artists, but
that's what Star Wars is.
Which is not fair. Which then leads me to, well, at least with Blast 'Em Up, I'm not relying on anybody. If that's a cool spaceship, then Michael do that, right? Because I'm not going to just take stock sets. You can take kit bash, but I'm going to make them all original. So it's my design. I might use pieces, but I don't know. I'm a nut.
But a great nut.
Thank God you are. Thank God you are. That's what's amazing about
the blind director.
Well, I think it's hilarious. By the way, Sonny Dominguez, who's actually the king of squirting around these parts, and I'll leave that for you to decide what that means.
No. Whoa. It's Midnight Metal. You can't just leave that.
Well, no, Sonny Dominguez, came to me one night. He was asking questions about squirting. Female squirting
or
female squirting, and how is that easy thing to accomplish? And it's not. By the way, I'm just gonna say it's
well,
not.
I'm gonna ask you, since we've now devolved to that. Do any of you guys know what snooting is? You guys don't know what snooting is? It's exactly what it sounds like. Think about it. Snooting.
You put your nose somewhere?
No, it's two gay men, uncircumcised gay men.
Oh,
that
yeah.
fuck each other through their foreskins, and it's
No,
called
that's called.
fucking.
I'm sorry, Michael. That's called docking.
Well, no, that's another phrase. The original docking is probably more
Okay,
clinical.
okay,
but
wait a second.
Is the more fun
Okay,
version of it, right?
wait.
Everybody likes snooting better.
Wait a
Oh,
second. As much as I am fascinated by homosexual sex practices, Sonny Dominguez did have a point. I just started out mentioning he was the king of squirting, but he actually writes, "I loved Shoot 'Em Up.
Now I'm interested.
Yeah, of course, snooting.
Squirting and shooting go together.
Okay. So Sonny Dominguez says, "I love Shoot 'Em Up. I just discovered Monica Bellucci after seeing Melina. The movie reminded me of the fun of Hard Boiled. And what were the influences for the style and tone of the film?"
Well, obviously,
Aren't you embarrassed now?
It was inspired by Hard Boiled. There's no doubt about it. But I have to also say my film 8 Days a Week was inspired by Cinema Paradiso. There was a scene where the young projectionist stood underneath this woman's window every night for weeks and weeks until she fell in love with him. That was just a small sliver of that movie, but I thought that could be an idea for a whole movie. So in 8 Days a Week, the kid stays out the Kerry Russell's window all summer long. I built the whole movie around this one scene. I was inspired from a foreign film. And I did the same thing with Shoot 'Em Up. There's the scene with Chow Yun-fat with the baby in the hospital. I'm going, this is such a big idea. You have innocence and hard-boiled contrasting, and he's got to protect this thing. And that's a whole idea for a movie. And so so I totally took that from it, but I exploded it because the best movies are the ones that are, you take a small idea, one idea, and then you explore it. And so that's, so that was the first thing. And then in some ways, although I don't think I totally achieved it, I love this movie, Run Lola Run, where it's just cinema, movie.
They're re-releasing it theatrically.
I just watched Run Lola Run yesterday.
Did you watch it in 4K?
No.
I have the 4K disc.
Yeah. Where is it from, Rob?
It's domestic.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in Thomas Logan's box set.
Right. So have I?
Wait,
what?
Thomas Logan's box set of movies that's sitting right here.
Right.
It's been sitting here for a year.
Thomas Logan's box set. I didn't know Run Lola Run came out in 4K, but I just watched
It came out as a part of a Sony Classics. Their box set.
I'm not buying the entire box set. I'll wait till it gets.
Well, they're re-releasing in theaters, so it'll probably come out again.
I'm very excited. I love that movie.
That's great.
Right.
But that was great. Thank you for that answer, Mike. I think that Michael, I don't call you Mike,
and the snooting thing.
It's great.
That went over big in the crowd.
I couldn't do that because I'm circumcised.
So much fun.
Thomas Logan says. Thomas Logan, speaking of Thomas Logan, says, Rob, he's always doing this to me. He's always putting me on the spot, but I got an answer for this one. Rob, Disney Lucasfilm offers you a job as a writer-director for Yak Face, a film about the Return of the Jedi character, Yak Face. The budget is $100 million. Mark Rylance is starring. Do you accept, and what's the plot? Well, first of all, Yak Face is actually called Selt Murray. Selt Murray is Yak Face's real, and he's a confidence man, or a confidence...
He's a confident man.
He's a Yakora is the name of his race. He's a Yakora. So here's what I would do. So so Selt Murray is a known confidence man. What I would have him do is think about the great paranoid thrillers of the 70s. He's going to accidentally, because it's in his nature. He doesn't want to rip somebody off, but he accidentally rips off the wrong person because he can't help himself. And it turns out what he ends up doing is his quick little, because he's usually ingratiating himself to people to rip him off or sell information or whatever. He finds just doing what comes natural to him, puts him smack dab in the middle of an incredible conspiracy against the Empire. And because of what he did, people think he's in league with the rebels to take down the Empire, which is exactly not the case. And so the entire film is the noose is drawing tighter and tighter and tighter, just like Kevin Costner in No Way Out. He's looking for the Russian spy. And at the end of that movie, you find out, spoiler alert, Kevin Costner is the spy that he was looking for. So the way I would do it is this whole confidence man thing. So Selt Murray, you think that he's been drawn into this conspiracy, but what he's actually done is he's the one that started the conspiracy, and he's the one that the empire that he's trying to pull off the biggest heist he could, but he made a mistake with the wrong person, so he has to get his way out of it, but at the same time try and rip off the empire like he was in the first place. So it's No Way Out meets Ocean's 11.
Wow,
So
I love that.
That's
And
off the top of my
she
head.
would take that job.
There you go. I mean, but you know what? Kathleen Kennedy would hire me to make that movie. I would write the script, and she would cancel the film, like she has with many other Star Trek projects. And Hunter Becknell says, "Old man yells at clouds."
Star Wars.
Did I say Star? I did say Star Wars.
No, you said something else
Oh,
that you're
did
not
I?
allowed to say.
Okay. Oops.
Credit. I set him up to talk about Star Trek with the Theremin.
How dare you? You can't say that word.
It's true. And by the way,
great restraint, Rob.
By the way, I'm just going to say that this came in yesterday, but I haven't been on. So Anonymous says, "Hail, hail, fire and snow. Happy birthday, Rob." Well, hail, hail, and fire and snow is what Melvin Belli, who played Gorgon the Friendly Angel, that Brian Cox talked.
You can't mention.
Brian Cox talked about this in the movie Zodiac, in the 3rd season episode of a certain show
something
called Plato's Stepchildren.
You can't
Call the angel, we will go far away, far to see. Friendly angel, come to me.
How dare you, Anonymous?
That was yesterday, though. He doesn't know.
Yeah, so it doesn't.
Or
count.
she doesn't know, or they don't know. I don't want to assume.
Right.
But so listen, we've been going for like 3 hours, and
Rod needs to go to bed.
I mean, but I'm about ready to drop that. I got up at 6 this morning to go to Elizabeth's graduation. She is now.
I need to share a couple things before we go, though.
Yeah, I don't want to go yet. We got to wrap up.
Yeah, of course. I'm just saying. I'm just preambling that I need to share.
How to snoot when you're uncircumcised, or snoot when you're circumcised?
Well, it would probably be more helpful if you were uncircumcised and had a snoot.
Yeah,
but that's not what I was going to bring to the table. But you can go back to all of us now instead of just me.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to drop some fine words on us.
Okay. Well, I can, but wrap up and then I'll share.
I thought you were going to show us something. That's why I went.
I'm going to show you a couple things.
Okay. Can I? Then I was going to go full frame.
Yes. Okay. So, guys, last time we were on, we got demonetized for this. We won't this time, hopefully. But Rob, I don't even know if you're aware of this. Are you aware of this?
What is that? Is that a comic book?
There is a Fog comic book that is out now.
I did not know that.
It's I believe, a 4-issue series.
Is it an adaptation of the movie, or is it something?
No, it's new. It happens after the Fog movie. And the thing that's great in it is, of course, there's connections to the movie. My favorite is that Adrienne Barbeau's character, Stevie Wayne, is still in the comic book as a character. Do you know who she is hooked up with?
Well,
in the comic?
I do not, because I haven't. Roddy Piper from They Live.
No.
John
even
Nada.
Better. Even better. If I can find the frame. Let me see if I can find the frames here. Okay, here we go. Let's see if you can see this. I'll try to bring it up. There. Oh wait, sorry. There we go. That is the character of Burnett. John Carpenter's character from The Fog has hooked up with Stevie Wayne in this comic book.
You mean who's cleaning the rectory, cleaning the church?
Yes, Burnett is now a pivotal character in this comic book.
I could see the two of them. They did do that in real life, so why not?
Yes, exactly, which is kind of cool. And they made it in the likeness of John Carpenter.
I love it. That's
the
great.
other thing. My favorite thing of this week, and unlike you, I know this will be more for your show tomorrow morning.
Did you get The Crow?
I got The Crow.
You got the Steelbook of The Crow.
I got the Steelbook of The Crow. I didn't pre-order it either. I literally went to Walmart of all places.
Yeah, and found I have not got it. I did
and,
not get it.
And it was the only copy that was there.
Have you watched it?
I will put it on after we're done tonight.
I'm dying to know what it looks like, how it looks.
I hear it looks great.
Yeah. Well, that is a good time. Yeah, I got a few things for tomorrow, but not much. Now, let me just wrap up where we're at, because I think that the future of maybe entertainment is creators going directly to their audience. Now, that's going to obviously limit what we're able to do, because even our audio drama is into the six figures, which you still have to get the money and you still have to pay it back. If we only spend $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 for the kind of thing I want to do, which people might think is crazy. How are you going to get your money back? Don't know. That's why we're crowdfunding it. You can purchase it in many different formats. Basically, you're pre-purchasing it, and you're going to be able to get delivery in 2 months. But Michael, you're going direct to the audience to support your unique blend of animation and action and science fiction. I'm
going to make it no matter what, but this would make it a lot easier, and I can finish it sooner. But I just love making stuff, so no matter what. The great thing about this is that when you write a spec script and you go out in the studio, say, no, we don't want to do it, and then somehow you get the independent money and then it falls through, I get so frustrated by that disappointment. But whatever happens, I'm not going to be disappointed, because I'm just going to make it. Somehow I'm going to make it. Nobody can stop me. And maybe it'll take me longer if I don't succeed, but hopefully I will. And you can start contributing this Tuesday, May 14th. It goes live. Blast them up.
That's awesome. By the way, Thomas Logan says Clive Owen can play Weequay and Eddie Redmayne is a man. Those are characters from Jabba's. Thomas Logan's very funny.
And does deep dives for sure.
Yeah, for my Yak Face movie. I love that, Thomas. I mean, it's the thing is, I kind of whenever he asks me these ridiculous ideas, I come up with these ideas off the cuff that I'm like, I'd watch that.
That's okay. Eddie Redmayne kind of looks like a yak face, so he could probably play the lead role.
Oh, so Michael, now, do you have certain goals that you want to hit is it a 30-day campaign or a 60-day campaign?
45 days.
45-day campaign. And you've got all kinds of cool, could you do me a favor? I want to play, I have a video Blast 'em Up rewards video.
Is that the gifts?
Is that the gifts?
It's probably the gifts. You can see that the there you go.
Oh my! When's the Snook?
Astronauty.
But I could make one. Space docking one.
There you go. Space docking. Space docking.
These are hilarious.
Yeah, what do you want to have? 40 of these? You can't quite see and go to hell. So they're a mix of raunchy and traditional.
But you've done other ones of other popular characters and stuff like that.
Well, not yet, but maybe I'll do another set that are featuring.
I thrust you.
Yeah.
Let's hang out. I like the let's hang out.
Yeah, that one's cool. I got an idea. Live short and commit.
Nice.
Right, and I like it because it's got four hands. And you see that robot? That robot is based on these maps with the squares in the Kubrick Killer movie or the Killing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. These are pretty great. I mean, it's gifts.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, I love this.
Hey guys, I just gotta say, really, it's like we need to support this stuff. This is someone doing it on their own. We need to support this stuff. This is really, but I mean, that's the thing. It's like,
Hey, look at that. You can snoot with that guy.
Well, yeah, I know.
you brought the balls.
I want the astronauty girl. All right. Yeah. Well, let's go back to the Cool as Ice special edition on
There you go.
4K.
Gotta have that.
Dieter is very excited by that Cool as Ice thing. I'm sure
He is, for sure. So yeah, well, that's good. So it launches on Tuesday, and you've got a lot of cool perks, a lot of cool stuff. Dave, do you have something coming up? I mean,
no.
the
But
next
we can watch the movie on Tubi, right?
we can watch the you can watch the movie on Tubi now.
I mean, theoretically, Dave, you just had a movie drop a month ago.
Yeah. You shouldn't let me in. It's on Tubi. It's a Tubi original. Go.
Say the title again. I spoke over you. Pitch it loud.
You shouldn't have let me in. The greatest movie about a bachelorette party running afoul of vampires in Sardinia, Italy that you will ever see. Check it out now. Actually, there's some cool, if you like giallos and stuff like that, there might be some nods to that.
And after you watch that, you can watch another movie on Tubi, Forbidden Tango.
Oh, the canon film Forbidden Tango.
Forbidden Tango. Starring Rachel McClish after her starring turn in Iron Eagle 3.
Directed by Menahem Golan.
So there you go.
Should have been.
So we talked mad shit, but we got all this stuff. So support Michael Davis and Shoot 'Em Up. The campaign drops on Tuesday, and also go back and get the Blu-ray of. Oh wait, Blast 'Em Up. Go get the Blu-ray of Shoot 'Em Up. That's what I was thinking. Blast 'Em Up.
Watch our extras.
Which Dave and I worked on for Michael.
Yep,
we did,
awesome.
and oh my God, Rob, we might do this again sooner than later.
It's true.
The joys of being unemployed. I can do Midnight Metal more often.
You can do midnight,
if they want it, but only if this episode gets 10,000 views.
These episodes don't get 10,000 views. No, it's.
I want to make an impact because Michael deserves it. He deserves to have this campaign go amazingly.
Yeah.
But, hey, now I have something else to post tomorrow. Something new.
There you go.
I can post that they should check the show out. That it was awesome.
Hell yeah.
I am Jax12 asks VR follow-up. Have you guys experienced virtual theaters? It's fantastic.
I have not.
Okay, I'll tell you something. I have. So here's the thing that's totally fucking rad. So the Apple Vision Pro, right? It's like you're watching a movie in a theater. Mm-hmm. You know, the only what I want, when I saw this, I'm like, I saw a demonstration. Because it's using your peripheral, your vision, it can set up so it looks like you're sitting in a theater with a gigantic screen. The problem is, I want to be able to hook it up to my home theater system so I can hear my thunderous surround sound and feel the bass, feel my subwoofer, like when I'm watching Dune or something in a theater. So the Vision Pro.
You need to get a haptic suit. They have them now.
Well, yeah, but
they have a VR theater with the Oculus, but what's really funny, and they didn't have it, they have it for the movies. They also do these specials, which weren't very good. But the fun thing is if you look to your left or right, you can see an avatar of somebody else watching it, and you're trying to gesture and talk to them like there's somebody else next to you watching it. So they really do create the theater experience. It's not just the screen.
Oh yeah,
yes,
the audience. And so does the Apple one let you have an avatar in the theater with you?
No, I just watched a demonstration and it didn't. But
it's fun with the other people because they can go shh sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
what I want though is I want to recreate my favorite movie theaters from Seattle, like the UA 150, the
Or
John
the
Dance.
Egyptian.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we could recreate the opening night at the Egyptian?
That was a great
Hills Run
night.
Red?
That was a
That'd
great
be
night.
great.
Yeah.
The other thing, speaking of,
That's another thing. Michael was coming in and out of our office to cast Shoot 'em
Yes.
Up while we were making Hills Run Red.
Hills Run Red, where we're in early prep.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I got the word, or one of the words that they were probably going to say yes, while you were letting me work out of your office there on Wilshire. Remember?
Yeah.
And it was me going, no, they're never going to make this movie.
That was the greatest. That was the greatest office with all those gigantic posters.
Oh my
and the
God.
props and the Art Deco building and like.
Oh, it was the greatest. It was so great.
It was epic. It was an epic office.
It was epic.
Yeah, you should put photos on and show people what it would. You ever?
I don't have any.
Oh my God, you fucked up.
Not even from parties. A few of the parties.
No, I no.
It was too drunk to take photos.
No. Well, you know what? You know why? Because I didn't have a smartphone.
That's true. Well,
There
maybe you can at least show them the outside. The building must be on Google Images.
The building's there, and the whole poster collection is at the third floor. The third floor of the previous company.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
biggest
maybe
previous
even,
company.
Yeah,
of
and
all
they took.
time.
As a matter of fact, I ran into a kid who worked there at WonderCon because he watches these shows, and he told me that I see your posters every day, and I'm like, well, I'm glad somebody does because that's a very expensive poster collection that I no longer own. But okay.
Before we go, a couple things I want to say, Rob, if you'll indulge me. One, my friends, my favorite band, my friends are on tour now in Europe. Chaosium are on tour now. If you go to Instagram, can find their dates at Chaosium. So they're on tour now. And the last thing I just wanted to bring up again before we end the night. Major respect and props to Roger Corman. Thank you for everything that you did for the movies, for cinema, for all of us, because I don't think any of us would be here without his influence. So
I agree with you 100%.
Fantastic.
That was a great thing to say, Michael. So you got Blast 'em Up coming, which is exciting. 45 days, so support that so it goes into June or up to the end of June, and that's very, very, very exciting.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I love talking.
One more time, Michael. Even though the link is in the description of this show and everything, how do people find the Blast 'em Up?
If they can't remember and they leave the show and they can't, I also have a site called blastemup.com, and there's a lot.
The link is in the description.
That's right. But if you're out and you forgot, whatever, there's the blastemup.com, and on the day of the launch, the day before, there'll be all sorts of information there. So you just need to remember blastemup.com and you'll find your way.
Guys, if you're a supporter of science fiction and original science fiction and new things and everything else, please check it out. Really, I mean, I know this is not an infomercial. We wouldn't have you on if we didn't believe in you 110,000%. Literally.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like what you're doing is really inspiring, and I really hope that everything works out way more than you want it to be.
Luke Skywanker asks, do you have any Roger Corman interaction stories? I actually do. So I used to be the director of special events for the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, Dr. Donald A. Reed. Dr. Donald Reed's, they still give out the Saturn Awards. I'm a Saturn Award recipient myself. And in
terrible, you fascinating man.
Well, in the early 90s, Dr. Reed took me on a Sunday. I went and had lunch at this place called the Magic Castle. I had lunch at the Magic Castle with Roger Corman. And so I got to hang out with him and Dr. Reed for a number of hours. I think Roger Hogan was there too, and there were a few other people, but it wasn't a big to do. So we were just hanging out.
Intimate.
It was an intimate thing, and that was no. I had met Roger Corman a number of times over the years at Saturn Award events or events like that, because he was a very, very nice, very sweet man, and he did go to these kinds of events. But he regaled us with tales for hours, and I did ask him a few questions about Death Race 2000 because I'm a huge fan, and the Edgar Allan Poe stuff he was doing. The Mask of Red Death and Pit and the Pendulum and those movies that he really brought to light, and then of course Little Shop and The Trip and stuff like that. And he loved talking about that stuff. I remember him saying that he was embarrassed how many times he reused the special effects from Battle Beyond the Stars in other movies, like in Space Raiders. I mean, they reused.
Oh my God, he used it so many times.
He used it.
Every sci-fi movie had it.
And it was
Forbidden World. Forbidden World had it in it as well. Galaxy of Terror had that stuff in it.
Yeah, he reused a lot of stuff. So he was an amazing man, and to sit and have lunch. I mean, it's such a weird. One of the things that people don't quite understand is how wild it was to be a fan of science fiction, fantasy, and horror, and be in LA in the late 80s and 90s and
I think
2000s.
they will, though. I think now that it's been announced that he has passed and everything, I think give it a couple days. And the thing is, the ripple effect of the announcement, the official announcement that this great man has passed, you will get these. Never mind the Oscars, which will have and should have a great tribute to him, but you will get Scorsese and Coppola, and Nicholson. You'll get these people through the next several days, weeks, paying tribute to this man because he was so important.
Oh yeah. Thomas Logan says Cardi B as an inconsequential speeder bike scout. Okay. But yeah, I mean, Roger Corman was, he touched the lives of so many filmmakers and he pioneered so many different things. He bought movies from other countries. He was big on the drive-in circuit. He was able to stretch 10 cents into $100. And at the time, Dave,
no one's ever done what he has done since.
No, and when we were in Full Moon on San Fernando Road on the borderline of Glendale and Los Angeles, he was in Venice, making movies the same way Charlie was, and
at the Hammond Lumberyard. And that's the thing, when I was like, I luckily, again, like you, and people don't realize now that it's not so easy to meet some of these people now. I mean, especially when Roger got older and everything, it wasn't so easy. He just did a for his birthday last month. He was at, I believe, the Arrow Theater, where he was. He did, and they showed Rock and Roll High School, Piranha, and maybe one of the Poe films. I forget which one.
Wow,
yeah.
What a feature.
But I remember retrospectives of the Poe films that I luckily got to go to, and he was there and got to hear him speak. And again, I got to go to the Hammond Lumberyard, the Corman Studios at one time, and meet him. And I had him sign. He was at a place called Dark Delicacies. He did a signing once, and I have an original Tuma Ligeia poster, which is his favorite Poe movie. And I had him sign that, which is now even more special. It was very special then, but now that you can't get his, and I don't get autographs normally, but
I don't either.
That was one that I was thrilled to get. And what an amazing career. It's like people go, oh, I'm so devastated and so sad. It's like he lived to be 98. He was still working on things. I hope that the last movie that I heard that announced that he was involved with is Joe Dante is going to do this thing called the Little Shop of Halloween Horrors. And I hope that still happens. So, yeah, it's just what an amazing career.
Yeah.
Intruder, the only movie he claims has ever lost money with William Shatner, but it's an amazing film.
It is.
He gives so many people
Launch pads.
he gave so many people their starts, and yet the influence they had is almost uncalculable.
Yeah, it really is. Well, listen, a serious man asks if any of you ever read Mickey Spillane's The Big Kill. Shoot 'em Up reminded me of that book. I have not.
I have not either.
Well, I'm going to now, and maybe there's an Audible on it. If not, I will definitely read it.
Yeah,
Thank
so there you go.
Thank you, a serious man. That's awesome.
And
And thank you for everyone who stuck with us and has been watching this entire time. It's awesome.
I'm going to play. Can I play your Kickstarter video? The 3-minute one?
That would be great.
I'm going to play. So if you guys want to stay, hang out and watch this, or you can go, whatever you want to do. I'm going to play this Kickstarter video.
You got it queued up at the beginning?
Yes.
Okay, great.
There you go.
People are happy.
Yep. Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys,
much.
so much.
Fun.
That was such a blast.
That was
guys.
a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Great discussion.
I have to tell you, you guys, your encyclopedic knowledge of all the actors that you list from these movies. When I was a kid, I could do that for Bond movies, and that's it.
They can hear us.
Every movie you've seen, you guys are like geniuses.
Yeah,